Zakat today, change tomorrow.
That is what our community Zakat has allowed us to start doing.
To start the journey to self-sufficient community where no one in need is left abandoned.
Since Ramadan last year, we've hit $12 million in Zakat distributed since our foundation in 2013.
We entered a bold phase with a new brand of fresh approach, launching programs in specific areas where we partnered with service providers who are great at what they do.
We channeled your Zakat to them, collaborating with others through the power of Zakat to help elevate poverty and create generational change in our community.
We've established new partnerships with incredible organizations and leaders in our community, such as MCCA, Al-Firdaus College, and specialist consultants in the health space, counseling, psychology services, and coaching.
And the results have been remarkable, alhamdulillah.
From helping domestic violence survivors through Zakat to giving orphan Muslim children the financial support and care they need to have a future.
Also for giving homeless Muslims a dignified future and self-sufficiency.
From helping Muslims bury their dead during the pandemic's worst moments when they had no money to do so, to giving new Muslims the crucial support lifeline they need as they transition to life as a Muslim.
All this and more has happened just since last Ramadan, where we've served close to 3,000 cases over the last 12 months alone.
We've also gone a step further to assist our community through quality goods by launching an additional 2 Zikis thrift stores in Melbourne and in Campbelltown, New South Wales, alongside our original thrift store in Liverpool, New South Wales.
But this is just the start.
The possibilities are incredible.
The chance to chart our community's independent future
It's remarkable.
And this is what we're calling you to support this Ramadan. We aim to expand our services further in the next 12 months, to increase the cases we serve, to unlock the power of Zakat even further, and partner with more specialist organisations.
To help even more Muslims live a life of dignity, supported by their community and never left alone. To help your zakah change tomorrow.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome to this very anticipated episode of Ramadan Real Talk. To those of you who are joining us for the first time, Ramadan Real Talk is a series of important conversations on topics to do with things happening in the community that National Zakat Foundation Australia puts on every Ramadan. We are in our second episode of this Ramadan series after a fantastic start with Sheikh Shadi a couple of days ago. This is the second season of Ramadan Real Talk after a fantastic series of conversations last year. And we're joined here by some very esteemed guests from the community for what is going to be quite a pertinent discussion on a topic that I'm sure is very close to all of our hearts. Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome today's panelists who I've got here in the studio with me. We've got Sister Anisa Khan, who is a much loved figure in the Muslim community, mashallah. She has gotten up to a lot of amazing things over time. She's an educator, an entrepreneur, works a lot with new Muslims, works a lot in mentoring sisters and families in the community, and so is very close to many of the issues that we'll be discussing here today. We've also got Brother Muhammad Rima of Muhammad Rima counselling fame, mashallah. He's a certified counsellor, and his day job now, for better or worse, is to help people through some of the most challenging issues in their life, including in this particular issue of marriage. And before that, in an earlier life, but also in a continued life, Brother Muhammad was one of the founders of Markaz Imam Ahmed, a very active Islamic mosque and youth centre out near Liverpool side. It gives me great pleasure to welcome both of you. Assalamu alaikum, sister and brother. Welcome to the show.
Assalamu. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. And of course, it would be amiss of me to miss out introducing a very important person in the room. My co-host for tonight, Sister Reem Khan. Sis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Farah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for another episode of Real Talk.
So I think it's fair to say that we've gotten a few sort of jangled nerves out of the system because of some technical issues. So we're all a little bit frayed, but probably holds us in good stead for what should be a very, very interesting discussion tonight. We did a topic on marriage, I think, in one of the series that we did last year, and there was so much demand for follow-up questions and discussions that we weren't able to complete, and people wanted a bit of like well, give me a sort of perspective from the end to end of the marriage issue, and that's what we've tried to do here tonight, and that's what we'll try and dive into. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion. We'll try and weave our way through many of the, phases of the marital process, right from the beginning all the way through to the end. But what we'll do is we'll keep the discussion casual and flowing, inshallah. And I'd love the speakers to just sort of jump in, interrupt each other, interrupt me, interrupt Reem, and really dive in and ask what's on their mind. But before we dive in to this sort of the chronology, as you will, I thought I'd begin by asking each of you a question, and I'll start with Brother Muhammad. Is from your experience, from what you see in the day to day, what is the state of Muslim marriages at the moment in our community? Like when we spoke to you about this topic, what came to mind?
Well, I believe I am optimistic, alhamdulillah, but I do believe that there is a crisis in the background, in the dark side of the community. So there's a lot of work to be done. That's my initial thought. Crisis, optimistic, and a lot of work that needs to be done.
When people sometimes try and sort of describe the condition of stuff, they sort of sometimes exaggerate. Do you think it's that bad? Do you think it's like it's all breaking down and every second person is getting divorced or something like that?
So if you want to go by the stats, 2 in every 1,000 people get divorced in Australia. But that's without that's what goes through the legal system, the civil divorces. That's without the like the nikah and the angry explosion. Those aren't counted, right? So they are high rates for a small country like Australia, but it's still it's quite serious. But it's not. I mean, there is hope.
Yeah.
There is hope.
Sister Anisa, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Brother Muhammad. I think the generation that moving forward, we've lost the understanding of the foundations of marriage and the purpose of marriage. And the village system that we used to have in previous generations to give the support to newlyweds. We've become really disconnected, we have, and I feel like that's having a huge impact. And when we have issues and problems, we're not turning to Allah. It's all publishing, our laundry on social media, or and not really, having a thorough understanding of what really marriage is. It's love and just about the wedding ceremony and then post, the journey. So, as Brother Muhammad said, we're trying to be really optimistic.
When you say that, what you said is about the whole village concept. Do you think that was one of the sort of traditional inbuilt mechanisms in our community sort of life, in how we lived our deen, that helped mentor people in the early phases of their marriage, and that's missing at the moment?
Oh, definitely, because we don't have enough parents being involved and having these discussions prior to children getting married about the challenges that they're going to go through and how we overcome them. So that wisdom and insight is lacking, and the conversation and communication is lacking. That's what I mean about disconnection. Whether we blame social media, whether we blame the hectic lifestyle that we live in the Western world, but that village system is fundamental on so many levels of emotional, social well-being, and to have a sustainable future and having the knowledge of our deen.
I think that's the crux of it. We're living in as they call it, individualistic society, and collectivism and social, that's gone. So young shabab and young brothers and sisters don't have that support from society to get them married, to teach them to. There's not even good role models. You know what I mean? All the way up to not just getting married, even after getting married and having children. As Sister Anissa calls it, the village system. The entire community would raise your children. Now the sisters has to be on her feet the next day, back at work. And you have some husbands who don't understand that. They also have needs, and so this is where we are in a crisis, I think.
I think also, sorry, I'm cutting short. I think also it's not understanding the rights and the roles of the husband's rights in Islam in a marriage, and a woman's. And we know clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran that marriage is based on affection and mercy. And I just feel like women, it's a maternal instinct, they're great at giving unconditional love, but when it comes to their spouses, they don't understand unconditional mercy, and vice versa. And it's like a battle between both. Like, I want the respect, and I want the the affection, and understanding to what capacity of providing that unconditional, for example, for me as a woman, to my husband, that respect, and vice versa. So there's a lot of these gaps that we have in our marriages, unfortunately.
Stream, before we get into the questions properly, you received a lot of questions and inquiries when this topic went up. What sort of stuff did you hear? What's on people's mind?
There was a lot about courtship as well. Like, what's the halal way of finding a spouse in this day and age? You know, back in our days, I think most of us, our parents or a family member kind of hooked us up and they did all the background check. Now people are kind of looking for their soulmates online or on social media or in gatherings. So there's a lot of question on that, like on courtship. How do we keep it halal? How do you, like, what are the right ways of meeting someone? And then also, how do you find that balance where you want to get to know someone enough to see if you've got any compatibility with them?
That's right.
And also enough to see if they've got red flags, but how do you do that within our Islamic boundaries as well? So I got a lot of those questions, like, how do you, all the courtship related ones. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's begin with that then. So
Okay.
I'll handle the courtship one, and then when it comes to compatibility, I'll flip it over to you, sis. So let's begin with sort of like the more formal sort of the plan that we had for the episode. So let's talk about courtship, right? What are the main problems in your experience, what you know in the community, that people are experiencing when it comes to finding a spouse? So where does, what is the process of finding a spouse these days? Obviously, as Sister Reem said, there's been a shift from the whole, parents or uncles and aunties will hook up because they're on the lookout. And we'll get to the crux of this, whether youth don't really trust that process anymore. So now you're often finding, as Sister Reem said as well, like youth are taking it into their own hands. They want to be the ones to find someone, right? And this is something that I see all the time because I'm a bit closer to that age, and you sort of hear all the stories where they do not trust their parents at all, that they'll be able to find the right person for them. And so whether it's on campus if they're a university student, or in the community if they're involved in the youth, dawah, or getting a mate to look out, for his sister or his cousin or something along those lines. It's often those sorts of means, and if it's not that, then it's very direct. Right, it's a direct approach through things like social media or electronically. If it's someone that they've gotten to know from one of these, which there might not be anything wrong with per se, right? But what does this say for how courtship has become, and where the hearts and minds of young people are when it comes to the courtship process? I might start with you, Mohammed, because you probably see a lot of this. What are your thoughts on this issue?
So all these questions are quite
That
loaded.
was a lot of questions.
Yeah. So just
Get started off with one question.
Just take me, yeah.
So challenges that people face in courtship is, I think one that comes up a lot is unsupportive parents. So like you said, the brother or the sister might meet someone at university, might meet someone at the masjid, might meet someone somewhere, right? And then they introduce that person, or they ask the parents, I want to get married. And the child is shut down, right? So unsupportive parents is definitely one of the big ones that I see as the challenges that youth or young people are facing. I see many times, brothers, especially brothers who, they're 25, 26, 27, they've done their university degrees, they've memorized the Quran as their parents wanted them, they've studied what their parents wanted them to study, and highlight that point there. They didn't want to study that. Their parents forced them to do that. So they've ticked all the boxes. And then he asks, I want to get married. And they're like, no, you still need to, right? And these brothers are seeing sisters every single day of their lives. The parents are treating them as if they have no sexual desires whatsoever. And this is one of the biggest problems. So when they bring up the issue, they're shut down. They're told you're not ready. You don't have enough money. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's like the parents want to, capitalize and make their money back that they've spent before they let him go, or her go. So that's one of the issues.
Yes,
I also believe, I agree with Brother Mohammed on that point also, is those cultural factors that come in, especially when we're living in a multicultural Western society like Australia, and for parents to be able to comprehend and understand that their child's journey is different to their personal journey. But in addition to that, I want to add that I find that some of the youth, they actually don't know what to look for in their spouse. Right? They actually don't know. And if they are having a meeting amongst the families, they don't even know what they need to ask the spouse. What are they looking for? What contributes to compatibility? Are we looking at deen? Are we looking at character? Right? Those aren't the ultimate factors, unfortunately. They're looking at things from an external phase, based on what the media portrays, or based on tangible external things. He's got a great job, or he's going to provide me holidays, he's going to provide me a car, and they believe that these tangible things are going to grant us all the happiness or a successful marriage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly states that, He had created the souls and created, the woman from that soul. So our soul mates, per se, were already ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. So I think the new, like I said, the new generation don't know what they're looking for, really, in terms of their spouses, and what that marriage itself is a social institute, right? And it's a long-term journey. And they feel like they need to find also someone that I click with. Doesn't happen that way. You're never going to, click with someone in 2 minutes. It's just, that's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it, And I always say to even my own children, obviously they're at that age now, that anybody that goes through the back door, it's always going to be, there's never going to be any barakah in it, right? It's okay to see someone and you like them. It's okay to have those feelings. Our deen and Islam allows it. But the way we respond to that, that's also another issue in courtship that we're having. And we're losing that barakah.
We'll get to the compatibility piece next, but just on that then. So what happens then if a parent puts up a difficult front in the way of...
Do you want to know what I told the brothers?
Yeah.
That are almost hitting 30 and they're dying and they're jumping on pornography now and other ways to relieve themselves because they got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I tell them to rebel against their parents. I mean, but in a halal way.
Yeah.
In the Islamic framework.
Yeah.
They say, well, how do I not go against my parents and birrul walidain and all that stuff, which is important, and I need to get married. I tell them that marriage, once you've met the threshold and you can, the istita'a, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it becomes obligatory. And the ulama debated whether do you go to Hajj first or get married first. Right? So they say get married first. So it's obligatory to get married if you have the means, right? And especially
that's people are going to misinterpret that, right? They're going to see that because for guys it's different, right? So for brothers, who've got the legal responsibility, that might be completely fine. What about sisters?
Yeah, look, it's general. There's hadiths are general. There's rulings are general. It doesn't mean obligatory. You just go run and just get married to anyone, trip over, and just whoever you pick up, you go and get married. No, but at least you start pursuing the idea. You start to do that. It doesn't mean you need to get married like ASAP. But from a fiqh perspective, it's obligatory, right? Obeying birr al-walidain is not always ta'ah to walidain. It's birr. It's how you talk to them. It's how you treat them. It's how you respect them. Do you raise your voice at them? Do you, that's obligatory too. But if you need to get married, you can, I don't want, the extremes, right? Fiqh. A man can marry, as multiple, he doesn't need to ask his parents.
100%, yeah.
He can, whatever. So I teach them to that. I have meetings with the parents and I tell them, at least meet the sister, see what's going on, entertain, facilitate, conversate. But I tell them to do it. And
so that's the case of brothers, right? So where they have the Islamic right to be able to do that because they're the ones that make the decision.
Correct.
And their parents' obedience is not obligatory in that sense. What about, so let's say that's a sister, you've been approached by a good suitor, right? And for whatever reason, culture, obstinance, on the parts of the parents, they say no. And then this is where the fiqh becomes complicated, right? Because for the sister, there's the guardianship issue.
Correct.
So how do we navigate this from a sister's perspective?
So I do get those cases as well. And the best we can do is just facilitate meetings with the parents, get the mashaykh involved, mashaykh that the parents like, speak to them, and just try to understand what's going on. Obviously there's that issue of guardianship and stuff like that. But it is also happening with the sisters. I've seen many very good men be rejected from sisters' parents just based on his income or he's not from our village. Or he's not from let
alone our culture.
Let alone countries, right?
And
I'm talking like compatibility is there. They're both huffaz and they're both uni students with degrees and they're both smart and they're both working in the da'wah. Everything's ticks. What the this is perfect match. But parents. So that's why I believe parents are unsupported parents are a great challenge for the shabab and for the sisters as well.
Before I come to Sister Anisa, because I will, and I really want to open the door for you.
Any parents,
so what is your ultimate advice in those?
Fear Allah. Fear Allah with your kids.
Fear
Allah. They have sexual desires. Allah created us to connect. And it's part of us, and He wants us to channel it in the halal. But you, a parent, are blocking that. So fear Allah. I'm not saying just open the door and do whatever you let the child do whatever they want, but facilitate the conversation.
Yeah.
And does it ever come to the point that you encourage rebellion from sisters, or is that because of the?
No, I just refer to my sheikh when it. I don't have that power.
I'll come to Sister Anisa. Sis, what about you in these sorts? I'm sure you've come across these sorts of contexts.
Yes.
What would you say about this?
Yeah, the same process. I pretty much, to go through a mediator where your parents don't obviously understand in terms of your whatever your needs or your choices or who they feel that you are compatible with. And this is another link that I was talking about, disconnection with parents, that we don't we're not having enough conversations with our children. There is not enough communication happening within our households, which means we've got a gap in terms of understanding others, whether it be our children, whether it be our parents, right? And this is one of the biggest methodologies Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all aspects of his life that he used, but he had the gift of understanding others. And how does that happen? It's being able to acknowledge our emotions, our flaws or our struggles. When we can do that, then we understand ourselves. Once we understand ourselves, then we can understand whether it's our spouse or our children. And I really believe that we need to have a lot more of parenting workshops. I say this from an education perspective of children, and because of the cultural divide living in a multicultural society, allowing parents to understand the way lifestyle is here, for example, and how our children develop and change, right? But the same process, I would tell people that come through, get a mediator involved that is connected with your parents, who understands their deen, who understands you, and to have an open conversation, dialogue. It's really important.
And attached to that is after the mediation and that, you can marry him, but I disown you after that. Abuse.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Do you find in those cases that sometimes with time things just get better? Like they get over that mentality, or is it like sometimes they really are quite hell-bent on that perspective? Like they really do disown and say, don't come back, just go.
From my experiences, they will say, I give you the approval to go and get married, so it's not haram, but I disown you. It usually takes about a year or two to reconnect with that parent.
Maybe a child or two as well.
Sorry?
To soften the hearts with the grandchildren.
A child or two, a gift or two. But I mean, parents who do that are quite narcissistic, quite abusive.
That would just make the first few years of marriage so hard for the couple because they don't have the parents' blessing.
And the dangers that come about this is that now the sister has no support.
And if
she goes back home, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? It's just a never-ending case of crap. It's just problem after problem after problem. We have to go back to the source, go back to the roots, go back to Islam. To eliminate all these other byproducts.
Sister Reem, you were saying something before I rudely cut you off?
That's sorry, I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah.
I think my understanding of the conversation so far is that we have an issue on two levels, that we need education on the parent side and then education on the youth side as well.
Yes.
Because on one hand, we've got parents who are trying to take control and ownership of their children and who they marry and all of that. And then we've got the youth who then want to rebel, but because they don't have the connection with the parents, they're going to find ways that are probably not halal. So it's kind of educating on both sides and teaching the youth, the importance of having the village in there, having your parents involved, doing all the halal background check and all of that. There's a two-level education that needs to happen there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Before we move on to the compatibility question, because this is sort of like, we're talking about the process and how to get to know someone.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But, so let's just say, putting that issue to the side where parents are the problem, right? Let's talk about the youth themselves. Right? How can a young person in this day and age, given Islam's rules, and assuming that, we're talking about a community that cares about, of young people that cares about their deen, wants to not do the wrong thing, how can our youth get to know someone and make sure that, that they truly know someone while keeping it halal? In an environment where so many other people just disregard the rules of Islam altogether, just dating and mating.
The majority are disregarding the rules of Islam. Yeah. To be honest, so
even our youth,
everyone, youth, religious,
so that's
non-religious.
The moment,
that's the state. So for us to address the 1% that are doing it right, everyone's going to listen here and say, "Well, what about us?"
Yeah,
right?
okay. Yeah.
So let's keep. It's called real talk.
Yeah, 100%. No, be real.
So a lot of people are not doing it the conservative way. They're meeting up. They're doing whatever. There's zina involved. There's romance. There's everything you can think about.
Haram chit chatter.
Everything.
Yeah.
All the way up to zina. What more do you want?
Yeah. And these are practice like so-called religious people we're talking about. Yeah. From good families.
Yeah. Good families. They're not broken homes. They're not gangsters.
Yeah.
They're not drug dealers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a real problem. So, because we're so far into it, let's not act pious like, oh my God, brother, this is haram and this and that. We need to not break the rules, not bend it, but like we need to consider that we are already in the...
So far in the deep end.
So far, we need to go back. So anything less than that is good. As a lesser evil, fiqh-wise.
Lower our expectations almost. Subhanallah.
Not just expectations, but like, for example, I'll give you an example.
To address the issue,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's the practical,
Correct. So I'll give you an example. I mean, meeting up in a cafe for someone who's 40, 50 years old, right? He's been divorced, he's got children, she's been divorced, they've got children, their parents are dead, their families don't give a crap about them, about this whole wali stuff.
Yeah.
The girl's like, she's been living on her own. We're in Australia, like, things have changed. So to go, you know, from the end and reverse, they might have to meet up at a cafe in public. So there's no khalwa. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Conservatively, oh, that's haram and that's still, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to look at this, the urf or the waqi'ah, in fiqh they call this the waqi'ah, right? And see what's going on. And see where we can stretch a little bit and bend a little bit to facilitate.
So that's what
People don't like this.
No, of course not.
Many people don't like this conversation.
They'll say you're a deviant mufti who's
I'm a sellout and you've changed and you know.
So that makes that can be, I guess, explained perhaps
But it's
to the level
happening.
of those people. What about the young people? Because some people will say, you know, you're opening that door for young people. There's not much of a gap from there, and then they look at a hotel across the road, and then fireworks happen, right?
Correct. Yeah. So obviously keeping it yani, open to the public, to the family members. But for the younger generation who haven't been married before, let's say, you know, to go through the parents and to speak to the parents, let them know what's going on. But how to keep it halal, is that the question? Is that, I mean, how to keep it halal? I mean, that's a loaded question too, but there's many ways to keep it halal. There's, you know, let's just say the man is coming to the sister's house, and you know the parents know about him. Allow them. So people say, well, how can we speak without the parents around? And they need to speak without the parents around. They do. Are you going to tell me there wasn't times where the Sahaba spoke? You see, there are many hadiths that show that there was times where there was even khalwa, there was khalwa, right? But it's not the norm. It's like it's an exception, right? So if he comes to your house, allow them to speak in the backyard. You can see them from the window. You don't have to be listening in. You know, allow them to speak on the phone, but they tell you, like, you know, if the daughter can say, "Look, Mum, I'm just going to speak to him now." You know, every week at 5 p.m. And they can speak, and you know, there's many ways to do it. And you can see them in different settings, so you can keep it halal and go to lectures with this man, with the dad. You know what I mean? Go to dinner with the dad and the girl. Like, you can do stuff like that.
And how long does that courtship process take? Like, for someone to understand, like, realize, okay, this person is right or wrong. Like, you shouldn't be dragged on, right?
All right, let me take a sip. My mouth's dry. So there's no Islamic figure to say how long courtship should be. There's no Islamic figure. So therefore, what comes in is urf. Now, urf is just what the people do, the people of sound mind and so forth. So you don't want to rush it, and because that's a mistake too. So what happens is, want to keep it halal, they rush, and they wake up the next day thinking, what the hell did I marry? Right? And you don't want to go for too long, because, I mean, you could if you want to. There's no one to stop you. But, you know, you may slip, or you may, you know, do stuff like that. So I think what's healthy, generally, not for all cases, you know, somewhere between 8 months, 10 months, a year, for the young chaps, get themselves ready, get themselves sorted, and there's, you know, the family's all involved on it, and they're all preparing and so forth. You know, in that time you can rent a house and, you know, do all that stuff. Yeah, you know, that's enough time to see plenty of stuff. But, you know, I mean, I'm not saying you have to do that.
And just in that, so on that time frame also, like Brother Muhammad said, there's no specific time frame, but there has to be sufficient time where families that are involved, where they can, when I say investigation, just to find out, because truly it's the character also, right? And our character is impacted immensely by our environment and our family. And which is why I know in certain cultures and a lot of Islamic cultures, they'll ask, oh, who is the father, who are the uncles, who are the brothers, who are the grandparents, right? And they do this whole, and you know...
Bit of due diligence.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Doing this whole sort of research background, because there is going to be certain characteristics over those generations, up to 7 generations that are being passed on. So it's fundamental that families, when they do get involved, they don't look at just the individual. Obviously, the individual is definitely important, but also the extended family.
Correct.
Because from our cultural perspective, we, like as I meant, it's a social institution. It's an entire family that you get married to, not just the individual. Yeah. And so the youth believe, oh no, it's just him. I don't care if the mum's like this or the father's like that. Do you know what I mean? They've got to be mentally prepared and aware that it's the entire family that I'm going to be a part of and that I'm taking them on board. So this investigation process has to go through, and the families meeting one another, where they have the mahrams present as Brother Muhammad, even if it's in the next room, where they're getting to sort of know each other.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's really important that, you know, our youth are aware that they're going to be given that opportunity.
Yeah, and people, I mean, have said to me, "A'udhu billah, brother, that's my daughter, this, that." Habib, she's talking to him outside anyway. I'm saying, let's go back and reverse. In your house is better.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost like, I mean, to conclude on this particular issue, it's like really the onus is on the older generation. It really is on the parents, right? In a society where everything is so accessible, communication is so easy, they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right? You might as well provide a trusting environment, allow them to actually do it. Like,
correct. You know? People won't like us to hear that they're going to do it anyway. They don't. It's like a defeatist mentality.
But it's the truth, right? Like, let's face it. I mean, as you said, like there are huffaz who are getting up to stuff you would not believe,
100%.
right? On this sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're not even protected.
Yeah.
You know, trust me. Like I work with everyone. You know.
Yeah.
I think also with parents, we've got to educate our children though moving forward, for them to understand I'm going to talk about from a female perspective, to understand their self-worth and respect. And I know when I'm working with women, I'm telling them if they're coming through and you've got a family and they're aware of it, saying, you know, I'd like to meet up with you, or they're coming through the back door. I call it the back door all the time. You know, if they're genuinely serious, they wouldn't be coming through the back door. They'd go through the front door and go to your parents, right? Yeah. So you know that they're not genuine in that case. And as Brother Muhammad was mentioning, there are people in their 40s or 50s, or there's widows, or you know, women divorced, or reverts that don't have that family support system, right? They really don't have any other option. Like Brother was saying, that they'll meet externally somewhere in public just for that short conversation, or go through the sheikh at the masjid, or because that's the only avenue that they have. Yeah. And that also causes challenges for them and delays the whole process of marriage. It does.
Profound, very, very interesting insights. And that was just the first section, by the way. So now, in the interest of the fact that we have marriages to protect as well, right? So I'm going to try and speed this along, otherwise we'll all be in trouble.
We'll get free marriage counselling. Let's extend it.
Mariam, if I'm late, then we'll have to talk to this guy. But okay, so let's talk about compatibility, right? So sort of to address the courtship process, right? Sister Reem, you know, you came up with some interesting ones on this. Why don't we look at the issue of compatibility? So this is now, presuming that the courtship process is underway, you know, what should individuals be looking for, and how do we address this issue of compatibility between potential spouses?
Yeah, how do you know if there is that level of compatibility? Because it could be that during the courtship process, you feel like you've just clicked with this other person, and then through that excitement, you think, oh, this is the one. And you see a lot of people just get really caught up with this is the one, I found my soulmate, I found this, but they haven't gone through any of the compatibility screening and all of that. Right. Yeah, what do you say about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we do see that. It's that I've clicked, and, you know, he really loves me because he's giving them things that their nafs desires.
They're just being love bombed.
Right?
That's right.
Their nafs desires, which is not the true definition of love. Yep. And so it's really important that we as parents were aware, and our children are educated, that we need to look at their deen. It's an ultimate rule.
Yeah.
The deen,
you're saying deen is number one on that list.
Yeah, for me is number one.
Yep.
Their character, is really, really important. And when it comes to compatibility, it's really important that you have, if not the same, similar values and similar goals. Because if you don't have similar values to live by throughout your life, if you don't have similar goals, you're going to be headbutting each other for the rest of your life. And you're not going to be identical because that's going to be life boring, okay? So you're going to have your differences, and you need to understand, each other's, you need to understand each other's temperaments. Once you've taken on each other's temperaments, your strengths, your weaknesses, and the other biggest factor is when they do hop on board and they feel like, okay, I've found all of these criterias, they want their spouse to be who they want to be. So it's about, I'm going to change him. It's okay if he doesn't pray 5 times a day, but when I get married, my father's going to take him to the masjid and he's going to start praying, right?
And does that happen? Do they change?
And do they change? Some of them, no, they don't. Because they didn't have that. Most don't, and they didn't have that characteristic to begin with. So I'm always saying, if that person is not reminding you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And they don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're not reminding you, then it's going to be a huge struggle if that is our main priority.
Even the issue on compatibility tests and stuff, there's some research on that.
Yeah.
Most of it is flawed.
Yes.
So you got the sites like Muzmatch and all these dating apps. So they go through this process thing where to see if you're compatible, and they match you up. I don't know. That's all I hear. I'm not on it. And they match you up. So they say, okay, I like walks on the beach. I'm a Muslim. Blah 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 blah. Oh, there's a man who also ticks these boxes, so therefore you're compatible. That's cloning. That's not compatibility.
Yes.
Okay. And part of this research, there was to see there was 2 groups: the divorce group and the non-divorce group, who were happy. The divorce group would blame that, we just weren't compatible, right? But they got the same religion. They agree on having children. They agree on living in the same city, so they are compatible, ticking the boxes. But when they divorce, they blame we're just not compatible. But the reality, and the other group that are still married, said that we were compatible on the basic levels, like the sister was saying, Sister Anissa was saying, but we made it work.
Yes. Yeah.
Every single day,
I think that's the crux of it.
That's the crux of it. You need to make marriage work. 2 people need to come together and be committed, and every single day you need to be choosing your spouse. Every single day you need to be, most of the time, turning towards them when they need you. You need to be, it's how you speak to them. That's what makes marriage work. It's the simple, it's like the seemingly useless things. What makes marriage work? It's not the gestures, the grand gestures and trying to impress the other person, and the bags, the $15,000 bags, and the $20,000 shoes, and the gifts and the annual stuff. I mean, they're great if you can afford them, right? But people, and I hear it all the time, but brother, I just took her on a holiday, we spent 50 grand on a bag, but where are you every day, every moment? That's where that's where marriage.
We don't have the emotional, intellectual, and social intelligence in marriages, which is where we're really, really lacking that, unfortunately. And as Brother was saying, it's not the external, tangible, materialistic things, it's the quality time that you're spending with that person. And it's the process and journey that makes you understand one another and fall in love with one another. So,
Brother Mohammed, you mentioned that there's the compatibility. If on the basic level you're compatible, then you can make everything else work.
Correct.
Can you define what you think the basic level is? Like, what is that thing that we need to look for in this?
So like Sister Nisa was saying, religion.
Yep.
Prophet ﷺ said, deen and khuluq, these 2 are at the forefront.
Yep.
So religiosity is not just being a Muslim, or it's the level of, and like if you're a student of knowledge, so to speak, your wife doesn't need to be a student of knowledge as well.
Yeah.
She needs to be interested somewhat, or supportive of the fact, or something around there in order for you to be compatible in that area. But their Islam needs to be, looked at first. Yeah. And their character. Now, character is a massive topic. Yeah. What is character? What's good character to this person is bad character to that person. And character here, from the temperament point of view, they don't get angry easily. They have compassion. They care. They try to understand. They have all the prophetic characteristics. You see, they're the first 2 things that are very important. Then you got to look at the stuff that's up to the person.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, personality-wise, for compatibility, do you have to have similar personalities? Or can you have,
Not
like, a
100%.
very outgoing, high-energy person making it work with
can.
someone who's
It
very
can.
quiet and
Because like I
reserved?
said, you don't want to marry your clone.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want to marry someone who supports your dreams,
Yeah.
even if they're not
Okay.
like you.
Yeah.
You see, and not about changing that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Changing that person to be like them, or I don't want to be adventurous. I want you to stay at home. No, that's going to destroy the marriage. But to okay, let's just say the husband is introvert, he's not open, and the wife is extrovert and she's high on openness. There's based on the 5-factor model of personality traits.
Yep.
It can work. So he can, compromise, meet halfway. Like go
Yes.
to a beach, for example. She's adventurous sometimes, and she can meet him halfway.
Yeah.
And it's really stepping out of your world for that moment and stepping into your spouse's world for that moment,
Yeah.
and allowing them to be the tour guide in that world, not you.
Yeah.
And learning.
That's such a good point.
Everyone's
allowing
fine,
them to
the
be the
pheromones.
guide.
I mean, what was I saying? So learning about them, right?
Yeah,
Entering their world, learning about them.
Yeah.
That's where love is built. That's where really,
Look at
connection
things
is
with a
built.
bifocal lens.
Yeah, and you're saying that I'm exiting my world, entering your world for you, and then I'll go back to my world, right? That is where love is made and built,
There's a very deep sort of thing that I've just sort of been observing the discussion, right? Because I want to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, right?
I like Spanish.
Maybe we'll keep that to the next section, which is the marriage itself, when marriages start breaking down.
Okay.
And coming back to this part of it, the whole compatibility part, and asking, whether we're asking deep enough questions sometimes, right at the start of the process, right? So we'll come to that. I don't want to interrupt the flow right now.
That's good.
But I guess you would say that, if some of these things check out, and from a personality perspective, definitely from the deen perspective and the hierarchy of the what's advised in the hadith of the look for this, the looks, the deen, the akhlaq, etc. Say all of that checks out.
Yeah.
But then there is this deeper question for me, which we'll come to, right? But you would say that if some of those things are in place, then yes, like prima facie, at surface face value, there's a case to be made that yes, this thing can work, even if people are of different personality types, right?
Correct.
Here's a question: what are the red flags though in terms of compatibility? Like, when do you know? And what I want to sort of come at this from is, because I've seen it happen so much, and that's why so many of my middle-aged mates are sort of like in really mediocre marriages now, right? We're in that sort of, I'm in my early 30s, right? And I see this a lot. It's like, they're going through the motions, they're not happy. And that's why we'll come at this in the marriage section, right? But there was something in the initial process that wasn't addressed, right? There was a deeper level of analysis that was needed about, are we really compatible, right? Are there some red flags here of some sort of trait that when the lines diverge in the longer term, right, on the graph, that over time it's going to create a chasm, or whatever the right pronunciation is, that can't just be bridged by, oh look, he's got din, akhlaq, etc. Because it's like to do with the interests in life, right? The things that drive you, the things that get you out of bed.
Yeah.
Is it even possible to know that stuff? Is it possible to pick up red flags? And they might not be like violent, abusive red flags, but like subtle things.
So we're not talking about the universal red flags. Just so everyone's listening.
Yeah.
We're not
So
talking
why
about
we talk about
abuse.
both?
We're talking
about the universal ones. Talk about the sort of the traits to look out for, the bad signs that you should not ignore early on, which show you that really there's no compatibility. Even if you seem to really click when it comes to, I'm into my Islam, I'm into my deen, I'm into this, I'm into that, those sorts of hobbies, or we go to the same masjid, or we come from the same background, the same village, all of those superficial things that initially create a lot of drive, right? And you're talking to each other and it's great, and you've got the chemistry, and as we were sort of talking about before a little bit, you can't wait to see each other the next time you're over to her house or at the cafe or wherever else God knows you're meeting. But over time, those things decline in importance.
Correct.
So what are some of those things, both explicit red flags and more subtle ones, in your experience, that if people had the knowledge of keeping in mind as they're going through the betrothal process, that it would be a really wise thing to do so to keep in mind? I'll start with you, Mohammed.
So the obvious ones, obviously, things like changing the person. So if you're engaged to someone, or you're meeting someone, and you tick all the boxes with compatibility, so you all like the same stuff, whatever, it's all there. But they try to change you. They try to make you based on their fantasies, or based on the image they have in their mind. So look out for that, and it could be very subtle.
Yeah.
It could be very subtle. It could be in the things that you like, or it could be on the cause that you support Islamically. it could be how you speak and how you dress. Yeah, and look, just on that point there too. So what I see most of the time is, you know, like you mentioned before, that if the brother's not praying, the sister has hope that she can change him, right? Or if the brother's at a certain level of religiosity, the woman isn't, you know, she's not on that level. She may not wear hijab, she may not pray, you know, consecutively, consistently, but he believes with wholeheartedly that he has the charisma and the sexiness to change her. You know, he believes that, so he postpones that. And literally it comes out after the first day of marriage, right? All right, this is now you got to change this, you got to change that, bang, 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 right? But there's always signs before that. Yeah. Before that, you can see some signs of trying to change who you are as a person. It's not about what's halal and haram. And this is where the sisters get caught up in this situation. So hijab is obligatory, right? Let's say she's not. He would say, I want you to wear hijab. She would say, I agree that it's obligatory and I will do it. Right, I will do it when, you know, after I get married. So the religion then is used to speed up that change.
Yeah.
It's good for her if she does it. But then if she doesn't, you said you know, he'll say that you said that you will wear it after we get married. You said this, you said that, and then he may force her to wear it. And then she's not happy, and this is where now the decline is changing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a decline. She's got the hijab on, but it's a decline. Why? Because she put it on not for the sake of Allah. She wasn't ready for it. She's probably doesn't know anything about it, you know, Islamically or whatever. But he, you know, in these circumstances, he sped up. So going back to your question, look for someone trying to change you.
Would you say that's like on anything, or is it
on anything? Allow them to be who they are. Yeah. You can not like it, but you don't have to change them and stop it. I mean, unless it's a major sin, right? I'm talking about the day-to-day stuff. Yeah. You know, where to work and what coffee you like, and like it's the very subtle things, you know.
And so, okay, and what about the more subtle things? So we talked about the explicit stuff, so, you know, trying to change and trying to do, you know, get people to be a certain way and whatever. What about the more subtle stuff, the more personality-based stuff or should we talk about that in the marriage part of it?
Oh, we can speak. Maybe Anissa would want to add something to what I said.
Definitely manipulative, I guess, control. You see this sometimes, you know, prior to the actual nikah. So if you can already, there's signs. Lack of empathy. Yeah. Definitely. I think lack of empathy is something huge. And the emotional understanding, being able to emotionally connect, you know, to be able to be a listener. Sometimes it's my way or the highway. And the girl sort of thinks, oh yes, it's because he loves me. Yeah. Because unfortunately, the girls in our society, we're raised and from a social perspective to believe that our happiness stems from keeping the male figure in our home happy, whether it be our husband, our brother, or our father. Yeah. And we need to divert that concept because it's ultimately pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's going to keep us happy, right? Yeah. And then the girls fall into that trap, right? And they don't pick up on these small little things thinking, oh no, he's promised me this, you know, so he loves me. And he's not showing, he has a lack of empathy. Yeah. There's these small little, like, you know, triggers and signs that you see. And it's best to, you know, call it off, I should say. Yeah. Because we have this cultural mindset, no, he's going to change, you know, and if you do these acts of service and he's going to love you, you know, no, if he's already showing it now, call it off. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Very interesting.
A spanner? Can I throw a spanner?
Please.
Yeah. Spanners are good. Yeah. So, in the courting phase, even people who lack empathy will be good listeners. Yes. This is the scary thing. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, everyone will put their best foot forward in the courting phase. So how do you keep it halal where you can actually see the real deal without
disagree with him or her? Disagree and
see how they react,
test the waters,
how they respond.
Test the waters.
Not just test the waters, but put your true self out there. Yep. And see how people react. That reaction is data. Yeah. It's as simple as that, right? It is. And people in the courting phase, as I said in the last session, we go through this limerence where our bodies are flooded with oxytocin and dopamine that compromises our decision-making abilities in our brain, literally.
Yep.
So if the spouse is controlling, or they lose their cool immediately, they're very, very angry frequently. We're drowning in this lust. It's not love at first sight; it's lust at first sight. And in that stage, people can become great listeners, just to land you, Yeah. So put your truth out there, I say.
Yeah. And on that point, brother, I find now that with the new sort of generation, some of them are more aware of their rights. From in our days, we had the nikah paperwork, and there's actually a section where a woman can put her sort of clauses.
Stipulate her.
Stipulate what she wants. Where I want the right to be able to see my parents every week, or be living in close proximity where it doesn't take me more than half an hour to travel to see my parents. Basic things. Yeah. Because in the olden days, the shiuk never even asked. It was like, do you approve? Yep. 3 yeses. Your nikah is done. So now we're getting women who are more, with a stronger mindset or more knowledge, or whichever way you wish to phrase it, and they go, okay, I want these 3 things stipulated in my contract. Yeah. And then you get a guy that goes, oh, she's already demanding certain things, which is her haq. And that's the way, as Brother Muhammad was saying, like, test those waters, right? Yeah. But she's not really testing it, it's really what she wants.
Yeah, put the truth out there.
Put the truth out there, and they go, oh, look, she's already, demanding things. Yeah. She's not my type of woman, or she's not my type of daughter-in-law. Yeah.
And it's those deep questions that are very, very important. From those questions, it's simple, how often I visit my mum, how often I have a coffee with my friend. Yeah. Does that piss you off? Does that get under your nose?
Yeah.
Do you get upset when I'm happy?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Sorry, I swore.
It's real talk. Don't worry, they've already what is it? Excommunicated you from the Ummah anyway. So.
All right, well, it's 10. It's MA 15 plus because it's 10 p.m. here.
Kids, go to sleep right now.
Questions like, how does breakfast look like to you? What does breakfast mean to you? How did you have
really
breakfast growing up?
Everyday things.
How do you reunite at the end of the day? How did your parents reunite at the end of the day? How would you like us to reunite at the end of the day? You spelling it out. You see?
Specific.
And I mean, one person might come from a family where you just have cornflakes on the go. That's okay. Where the other one has family breakfast, thorn and fool and eggs and the whole traditional breakfast, and that it means something where the family sits. If they both have different meanings, that's fine. Like I said, you can make it work by saying, okay, well, how about once a week we have a family breakfast? I can deal with that. It means this for me. It means unity. It means blah blah blah. Right. So it's really putting those questions out there.
Yeah. Fantastic segue into the marriage section, by the way. This is a great discussion. But before we go to that, what are some things to look out for with regards to how the potential spouse views your parents? So let's flip the script a little bit. So let's say parents have been reasonable, the courtship process is happening well, they're letting you do your thing, you're talking and blah, blah, blah. They've given space to the kids to have the discussion. But there's something that the potential spouse says about your parents or your family that you should look out for. How is this going to play out in the long term? What are some of those things?
All right, so this goes back to control.
Yeah.
And
so
ownership.
Part of a sign of an abusive person is they try to isolate you from your supports.
Yeah.
So they might. They want. It's like shaitan. Shaitan won't come, and say ikfur, right? He will do subtle things. Start off with the minor sins and the major sins, and then lead his way up, right? Khutuwat. Same with the abusers, because they're devils in human form. So they won't say, leave your parents and, I don't want you to go to your parents. But they'll say, oh, you see what your brother said? See what your sister did?
They're trying to make you not want to like them.
These are red flags. Because ultimately they want to isolate you from your supports, to have you for themselves, and then they can just spin whatever they want to you, and you'll be like, yes ma'am, yes sir.
And if
they don't have respect,
at that stage,
the opposite scenario, if they don't have respect for their own parents, because I see some people like that, absolute disrespect for their own parents, then they're not going to ever respect your parents either.
Look, people might have dysfunctional families, and that's okay. We're not perfect, right? If you're marrying someone and they've got a dysfunctional family, but they still want to see their parents, with barriers and boundaries, that's fine. They don't have to cut them off just because you said so and they're dysfunctional. As long as the dysfunction is not like, sexual abuse or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking just a dysfunctional, broken family, whatever, which this
Quite
is
common.
quite common.
Yeah, it's very
quite common. It's okay, because I've heard many times, I don't want to see in-laws because broken family. I don't want my children to see broken families.
Oh.
It's just an excuse.
Yeah.
It's
really just control.
This is control.
Yeah.
This is domestic violence. Everyone's going to be, what the hell? Maybe the likes will go out, or the hates.
We still have 71 people watching, so it's all good.
That's going off,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That was fantastic, subhanAllah. So, Jazakumullah khair, like really, really, really good stuff. And so let's go into marriage itself.
We haven't even talked about
We haven't
marriage
even talked
itself.
about this is the Jewish people. But so we've talked about courtship, we talked about compatibility, and now we're in the marriage. So you've found your spouse, so you're married by hook or by crook. You've got him there. What does a healthy marriage look like in the most general terms? And this is not painting an idealistic picture, but what does a healthy marriage that works, right? What does it look like? I want to elevator pitch answer from both of you. Muhammad.
Sure.
And at the highest level.
Yeah. So when I speak, with these qualities, it's most of the time, not all the time, with most of the qualities. Okay. The first one is all the time. So trust. There needs to be trust.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's 5 components to trust. There's honesty. There's transparency.
Yeah.
There's accountability. There's good manners and ethical behavior. And the last component is having your spouses, taking their side, or showing them that there's an alliance. There's an alliance, right? They build trust. These components build trust. So that needs to happen on a day-to-day basis. Accountability. So this automatically eliminates the last. I'm sure you're going to ask us about secret marriages and stuff. But accountability, transparency, all that type of stuff. That needs to be happening on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing is trust. The second thing, there needs to be commitment with both spouses. You got to understand that marriage is 2 separate individuals with separate brains, separate personalities, separate everything, who choose to come together in like a third space. This third space is the relationship, and they try to make it work. It's a conscious daily choice. It is, because you can wake up and say, I'm not having it. I'm not doing it today. That's it. I'm not saying that you need to be. See, this is what I said most of the time. It's not a thing where your spouse has sucked you up and you got no life. No, go back to you're 2 separate individuals who come to it together and create a third space. So you're still an individual.
Yep.
You're not owned. You're not enmeshed. You're not a slave. You see?
Yeah.
Allah has brought you together, and you need to choose to keep that together every day, because you can choose to break it, right? So commitment, that's the second thing. The other thing is to have that emotional connection and some levels of friendship, not best friends. I mean, that if that's...
Oh, we'll get to that.
If that happens, then that's cool.
Yeah.
But some level of friendship where, for example, you got your degree, who's the first person you go to? Should go be your wife, or it should be your husband. Hey, I passed, or something good happened. Day-to-day things happen.
Yeah.
It's like there's a friendship there.
Yeah.
It's not like they don't know who you are and what you do out there. That destroys marriages and actually can affect relationship in the longevity of it. There needs to be some friendship there, where you're like supporting each other, like a friend. So an emotional connection, someone like a secure attachment as well. And this we can relate it to Islam with sakina. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Litaskunu ilayha." There needs to be some sakina there. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahun. This is sakina as well. Libas. What is libas? I bought this coat, by the way, right? And I feel good. If you're depressed, you buy a new shoe and a new jacket, you feel good, right? That's what your spouse should make. How Allah Azza wa Jalla intended our marriages to be. That you take pride in your spouse. She or he makes you feel good. You see? So a secure attachment, emotional connection, some friendship. You conflict in a healthy way. Okay, so your conflict is not frequently attacking each other, or like it's not argumentations where you're left hurt and lonely after or you're scared to bring up an issue because he or she's going to blow up. You're married to someone who's like a time bomb that can just explode at any minute. You're scared to mention stuff to them because of how that they will react. This is a toxic relationship. So the way you conflict is, in a quick nutshell, is, and this is some advice, that you are two people on the same team discussing an external problem, and the way you talk to each other is, although I disagree with you, I still love you. I disagree with the problem. So, it's a little
to separate the issue or the emotions to the actual individual.
Correct.
But
And you
what
can
we do is
disagree.
we link it. Yeah, that's right. And we link
We're not saying
it
to be agreeable the whole time. One exercise I do in my office, like with the couples, who are very who attack each other, I get them to get like a ball. We get a ball and we write the problem on the ball, and we put it there. And every time they go to attack each other, I mean, I've taught them the prerequisites and all that stuff. But long story short, whenever they go back to pointing the fingers at each other, I tell them to point at the ball. So then they say, I don't like that. No, I don't like you.
It's
So
not you. It's
you get
the
it?
issue.
Yeah.
So you're so selfish and you don't care about me. No, the problem is I need you to be home at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Don't attack. No one's going to welcome an attack, right?
Yeah.
So the way you conflict is very important. You need to learn the skills. We weren't born with it. Our parents didn't teach us
Yeah,
it.
that's right. We
Go
develop
and
it.
learn it.
You learn it. Yeah.
Go and learn it.
Yeah.
Pay money and go and learn it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing is to support each other's dreams. This is marriage in a nutshell. You do this most of the time. So conflicting well most of the time, friendship there most of the time. I'm not saying you need to be, up each other's rear ends day and night, but there needs to be this most of the time. There's room for slip-ups and conflict and criticism, and there is room for that. But the appreciation and all the other good stuff should outweigh the other stuff. If you're in a relationship where you criticize and complain and all that type of stuff more than you give appreciations, someone's not happy. 100%. I can put a stamp on that.
I just want to add to that, brilliant,
Yes.
Brother Muhammad. That was brilliant, fantastic, and a few other factors that interrelate to what Brother Muhammad was saying. That is, we'll reach a point also throughout our marriages where we're going through this ritual every day. Kids at work, and we're not, we've all been through that, and I've been through in the last 26 years. That is constantly for both spouses to maybe, I don't know, just have a journal or to constantly document or reflect on gratitude, because we forget during that process and journey of the good in her or the good in him, right? Because we're so caught up
Just
with
day
the
in,
whole,
day out of the same schedule.
right?
Yeah.
That's number one for personally, and number two, which is a huge factor that exists with everything that Brother Muhammad was saying, is that communication is vital. It's fundamental that we do it every single day that we communicate, because and it means to spend quality time together. It's not quantity, that I'm at home all day, as long as we're spending a half an hour of quality time where we communicate, because happiness, where does happiness come from, right? Happiness comes from having really good relationships. Where do good relationships come from? It's intertwined with communication. So the more we communicate with each other, the stronger our relationship becomes. And the better our relationship comes, the stronger the level of communication we have with each other. And these are some factors that are dying because we're sitting together with our spouses and we're so busy on our gadgets or running our businesses or whatever, we forget to switch off and be in the present moment. It's really important to be in the present moment. And the third thing is also, and again, it's intertwined with Brother Muhammad was saying, is that emotional intellect, right? That men need to understand the tone, and the women, the tone, the language when you're having these discussions, and not to relate the issue or the challenge to the actual individual. Is to be able to have that bifocal lens on and to be able to separate it, right? And both spouses want affection and mercy. But statistically, women want more affection, right? And men want more respect, right? And it's a maternal nature that we're so, as women, we're so, with our children and caring for them and telling them what to do, that we start to tell our spouses what to do. And the husband's like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. But we start mothering them. And they want unconditional, respect, not unconditional love, and it's trying to train ourselves and learn and grow, as Brother Muhammad was, to shift that paradigm, shift that paradigm. And also there's some women that have a lot of masculine energy, or men that have a lot of feminine energy, right? And it's also balancing those things out in the home.
What do you mean by that? Just explain that a little bit.
Yeah, look, there's you'll see, and I know for myself, when I am sort of outside, I guess, in that entrepreneur role, I tend to take on that masculine energy role, right? Because I'm, operating,
Is that like
businesses.
leadership, you mean? Or
Leadership.
control?
I mean,
Yeah.
women can have that too, obviously, right? But that male mindset, and I've got to remember that when I come in, because I've got an extroverted personality, my husband's got an introverted personality.
Yeah.
So when I come home, that I switch over to my feminine mindset.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, and then when I do, for example, if I've achieved something outside, I don't come home and say, it's not about me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
I did this and I did that and I achieved. Do you know what?
Yeah.
I can share it with my friends, maybe my close friends who emotionally understand me.
Yeah.
But I just leave it at the door
Yeah.
and give my husband that respect, right?
Yeah.
And talk about how his day was and how things are going. And later on, it's that sandwich. A little bit later, if he asks, I'll
Then you slip
mention,
it in.
this had happened.
Yeah.
So it's the whole process of that dialogue and conversation of how it happens, language and tone, and when it's being said. And you see women, like men come in the door, they're exhausted, they've been at work. And they've been at home, obviously they're exhausted too with the kids and doing their chores, and they start their rant straight away.
Yeah.
And he's tired. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to hear it at least immediately. Give him some time. Let him go change and have his dinner or whatever it is, and then say, "Oh look, are you okay now? I wanted to discuss a few things." So it's understanding when these processes need to take place. Also,
Yeah. So, Reem, there was an interesting question we came up with, wasn't it, on this one?
Which one are we looking at?
The advice that we wanted to solicit from both of.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to ask you both. I guess you can look at the camera while you say it. I guess give some advice to the audience. Should we do like Muhammad gives it to the men, or
no, to the women? I think.
Okay, so you can give some advice to sisters who are watching on how to be a good wife, and we'll get Anissa to give the advice to the men who are watching on
interesting.
Not how to be a good wife, maybe how to keep your spouse happy.
What are
so
things
as
that
a
men are
wife,
looking for? I
yeah.
guess.
So you want me to address the sisters, right?
Yes, there we go.
All right. So quick advice. Is this like a? Is this one of those?
Yeah, just make.
Hit it up, yeah.
So
How can you make your husband happy? To the sisters.
yeah, it's pretty much what we said already. Give more appreciations and respect and all that type of stuff more than criticisms.
Yeah.
If you need to journal that stuff out and see, are you criticizing more than you
Tally it each time.
Tally it out. So men do like to be respected. It's just in our nature. So calling him names and putting him down. I mean, even for the sisters, it's not right. But men really take it.
Yeah.
We take it to heart, and we go into defense and shame mode and victim mode very, very easily when that happens. And we go to I don't need, I don't deserve this, and I can get better straight away, right? So respect is a very, very important thing there, right? And with the appreciation part, don't just say I appreciate you. That's good, but look at him as a person. So look at him. It doesn't have to be this towards you and the kids. Look at him as a man, as a worker, as a volunteer, as a friend of of one of his friends. And if you notice something, say it to him. I noticed how you were there for your friend who his dad died, and you were there for him. I really like that. You're very caring. I really like that about you.
Yeah.
That makes him feel seen and heard, not just as a man who's paying bills.
Yeah.
Right? I noticed, I like how you take the kids to sport and that you interact with them. I really like that about you. I appreciate it. Thank you. That needs to happen frequently. All right. And this should be, vice versa
Both
as
sides,
well.
yeah.
But for a man, for the main complaint I hear from men is that their spouse, their wife disrespects them, and it hurts.
It really hurts.
I tell the men as well the nature of the women, that the whole that we need to allow them space to vent sometimes, and once we allow them to let it out, they can easily calm down. So not to demand, I want respect. It's not going to work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am saying men love respect, but don't enforce it that way.
Yeah.
Allow sometimes for the wife to vent and to lose her cool sometimes. But Sister Anissa will talk advice for the sisters.
Right, so
Sure.
So that was
advice for the brothers, how to make
okay.
your wife happy. Yeah.
How to make your wife happy. To all the brothers out there, just remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created women as emotional beings, and it's a huge load and responsibility emotionally that they have on their heads to bring your children into the world. Their hormones, their emotions, and the way their body changes, and with social media, with all of these I guess, you know, taboos and stigmas and the way they have to look, you know, they've gone through these changes with you and because of you, right? So I request every brother, women are such simple from an emotional perspective beings, that if you just take your wife out one-on-one just for a coffee, like that's how simple we are, once a week, or to a dinner, like just a once a week one-on-one thing, that'll actually make her happy for the entire week. It doesn't have to be done on a daily basis. And then also the supporting her in her journey, whatever it may be. Because men see things from a physical perspective, right? And if, for example, if she's starting off a small project, which is, I don't know, a home-based business, for example, don't belittle her and go, oh, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, the nappy stacking business or the chocolate business that you're doing at home. Support her and encourage her, just the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did with Khadija radiallahu anha, right? And as Brother Muhammad Rima was saying, when she vents, just sit there and listen. And, you know, there was a story, this is a story, not a hadith, where Umar radiallahu anhu, a companion, had come to complain to him, and his wife was, you know, complaining, and he heard her ranting. And at the end, long story short, you know, Umar radiallahu anhu said that, you know, she does this voluntarily. You know, it's not fard upon her to be doing all of that, the housework, cooking, cleaning, and raising the children. And, you know, I didn't say anything back because she's the mother of my children. And so be really careful also in the mannerism that you speak with her, because women hold on to something for the rest of their life. I think the women would agree with that, right?
Don't forget.
So the tone and the way you speak with her is really, really, and just emotionally, really, really emotionally connecting with women. We're really lacking that emotional intelligence. And I'm talking about, I shared a post the other day on my Instagram and Facebook about, you know, one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something small and simple, where obviously she began menstruating. He said, oh, you know, you've begun menstruating. She said, yeah. He said, that's fine. You know, come down and lay down next to me. Just simple, like body language and touch is extremely, extremely powerful. That's what women want. And we get that through our children and feel like we're lacking it through our spouses. We are. And so, and along with everything that Brother Muhammad said, for the women, it also applies to the men, inshallah.
Something to complement both.
Advice.
Yeah.
Imagine both you guys, husband and wife, have love cups, and it's your responsibility. So the wife is with the kids and the house, and it's, don't compare who's got it harder and tougher. You both have it hard in different ways. But it's your responsibility to fill each other's love cup up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
In any way that you know how.
Yeah.
Imagine every day that there's a cup and it's low and you need to fill it up.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're falling short. Make that a thing, right?
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I want to give a shout out to some viewers who are making comments. I just want to read some of them out. And we are about to head into a very interesting part of the episode. So I think we're going to get a lot more. We're already beginning to get them. I think people are anticipating what's to come. So hang on there, everyone. Don't go anywhere. And let's keep the comments coming. But let me read a few out. Sister Janana was saying, you know, it's important that both spouses uphold values and morals. They view and accept the significant other as a human being, as an individual in their own right. Sister Leanne said, how can a woman prove that her husband is psychologically abusive in order to initiate a khula when outwardly he seems like the perfect husband? We will come to that, inshallah. Sister Nagmana has said, spot on, gratitude and counting your blessings are very important. So this was at an earlier part when you guys were talking about that. Sister Recha was saying, respect has to be earned as well. It's not just there inherently. If he always blames you and makes silly comments all the time, then how should we respect that person, right? Sister Donia then said, some men see women's success as a threat and try to sabotage that or put her down. Any way to change that? I guess we'll come to that in some of the more...
there's always disclaimers. We're speaking in a non-violent, non-abusive relationship. Our advice is a disclaimer, not for abusive relationships.
And then Sister Janana said, I actually don't believe respect should always be earned. She was responding to an earlier comment, so she's making the point, some respect has to be there inherently, otherwise things won't work.
It's still coming in.
There's some good points.
Very good point.
Sister Nancy said, a man shouldn't have a wandering eye, and he also shouldn't speak to women out of the workplace for absolutely any reason. She then said, these days work seems to be an excuse to be texting other women on different social media platforms at midnight. God help us. Sister Janana said, I don't believe respect should always be earned, but more given. So again, there's some themes that are continuing, and rest assured, we're about to get into a part of the episode.
On the views.
So look, I want to explore two key themes before we get into divorce proper, right? One is the concept of the soulmate that we talked about earlier, that I foreshadowed earlier. I want to come back to that. And then we want to talk about what a really toxic marriage looks like. So I want to sort of take it up in grades of degrees of difficulty, as it were.
Yeah.
Let me talk about the soulmate concept, right? Because this is where it's not necessarily an abusive marriage. It's not necessarily a toxic marriage outright. But it's that marriage where it's, the concept you were talking about earlier, sister, that it's become a chore, right? And not just that, it's not just become a chore, it's become a chore to the extent that someone is hurting in there, right? And something's not going right anymore. So talk about this concept of, let's explore this concept of the soulmate, right? And how much of a connection you need to have for marriage to work, right? Do they have to be best friends? And do they have to be deeply into each other? Or can a marriage work functionally so long as each of the spouses plays their part without necessarily having to be head over heels about the other person? What are some of the issues? And I know I'm asking a bunch of questions, but I think you get the essence.
Yes, a lot of
you don't have to answer them individually. It's just, I'm trying to convey a sort of logic here of where I'm coming from, and I want you to sort of respond to that logic. What are some of the issues you see in marriages where the initial zip has run out, right? And the attraction, etc., has decreased. Is this a common issue you see? Is this something that you come across a lot? Can people rediscover that? Is it possible to get it back once it's gone? And we're actually going to take it to the ultimate conclusion when we come to the divorce section, which is sometimes these marriages are ending in divorce. There's no one raising hands, no one's beating anyone, no one's doing anything crazy, but it's just you no longer see your spouse in the same way.
Like if it's not toxic and it's not abusive, it's just like a mediocre marriage. Is that okay? Can it function fine? Like I think that's what the question is.
And for our pop culture folks out there, there's a very famous film, a Hollywood film, but I think it got very popular because it addressed this, right? It had Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, and they start this.
What movie was that?
It was Revolutionary Road. Revolutionary Road. No. It's funny because the glamour couple from there, and then there was like a divorced couple in this. But anyways, what it depicted was this marriage that starts with that chemistry, that spark, right? They're young, they love each other. The courtship period was amazing, and then they just settle into this middle class life. Right, they put a down payment on the house and the mortgage and all that sort of stuff, and then over time the disagreements and the lack of being on the same page. He lives a 9-to-6 job. He goes, he comes back. She's there raising the kids, and over time the staleness just increases. Right, the chemistry loses that. And I'm just personally reflecting. I see this all the time. Right?
It's quite common.
So, what do you say about these sorts of marriages? And what, like the whole concept of the soulmate? Because you mentioned before, sister, and there's a hadith on this, right?
Yeah.
I think it's in Tirmidhi, where it's part of the provision that Allah gives in this life. But does that mean that you're really into each other? Does that mean that you found, like in Western society, the concept of the soulmate is someone you've got a deep connection with and all that?
Like a Bollywood thing, right?
That's right, like a Bollywood thing. So, you're sort of frolicking and dancing, and all the dances are coming on magically. What does it all really mean? Right? And the fact of there being a hadith on the concept of a preordained person, like your rizq is preordained, right? Does that necessarily mean that you're really deeply into that person? So let me open the Pandora's box.
I think we're going to start with a little bit of a lesson on qadr.
Yeah.
Is just because you married someone, it does not mean that Allah has not preordained 5 other spouses that He's written as well, right?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. We can't interpret these qadr hadiths the way black and white.
Yeah.
Right? It's like wealth. You can have it today, you cannot have it tomorrow, right? So we need to remember that. And the issue on soulmate, we, as you said, like this based on, because of movies and music and TV and society, we enter relationships with a very incorrect mindset, right? The mindset that this soulmate of mine will make me happy, will fix all my problems, will sweep me off my feet, will be the perfect couple, and we'll post photos on Instagram, and we're going to be so
happy.
So when we say soulmate, that's what rings a bell. That's the first automatic thought, right? The hadith is not saying that.
No.
The hadith is not saying that. The hadith is saying a soulmate, it's part of your risk. Just like the money, but you need to make it work.
Yes, that's right.
It goes back to what we were saying before.
Yeah.
You need to put in the effort. You can't just enter the marriage, expect your husband or the spouse to do all that for you, right? And then automatically it's just gonna be an amazing marriage. No, that's not the case. And on the other hand, also, you can't expect that this soulmate thing is going to be where you're being swept off your feet constantly. And that he's the best of friends and he's don't fight. That's the message that's been sent to the people, especially to the youth, through the music, through the all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that. Sorry, that happens in the courtship process a lot too. They sweep them off their feet and love bomb them with all these fancy things, and then after you get married, obviously you've got responsibilities, and so that kind of dies down.
correct,
And
yeah.
And the mundaneness of life kicks in.
that's it,
Correct.
and
And
it gets mediocre.
It's no longer
yeah,
about the
Because
restaurants and the
definition
cafes.
of love is
and
wrong
stuff.
there,
yeah,
right? That definition, when you were saying that
Yeah.
they sweep them off their feet with all these gifts and
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is, it's because they're satisfying their nafs, right?
satisfying enough.
It's a satisfying, and they get these gifts and go, oh, yeah, I love you. And the minute you don't get a gift, they don't say it, right?
Yeah.
They don't understand the concept of love. It's
Yeah.
truly connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And the soulmate, just as brother was saying, we don't have the time to go into the fiqh to understand that, no, Islamically, it's a Western ideology, your soulmate, you know. And the other thing is we think the soulmate has to be the husband, you know, it has to be the husband. You can connect with different people in so many different ways. It can be your siblings, it can be your father,
Yeah, the
it can
hadith
be your
doesn't
brother.
say husband or wife,
That's
right?
right,
It
it
says anyone.
doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So that's another disillusion that we have, or misconception.
So your
you know,
best
so-
friend can be, you know, your sister or something. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
I've
to
seen
be your
people's
like,
marriages where the husband and wife have had a brilliant, or you know, we have our challenges, or they have someone that really, really loves them, but
Yeah.
they're still tested on their patience. They are. So if they're tested on their patience, how is that spouse a soulmate,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because you're still
Yeah.
testing them on her patience or on his patience. How is he a soulmate?
yeah,
So it's the whole definition is wrong. The ruh, the souls, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, yes, we were written before, but the connection, and I'm telling you from 26 years of marriage experience, happens through the process. Everything happens through a process. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach answer a question to the prophets, he didn't give them an answer straight away. He put them through a process, didn't he? And that's exactly the same way marriage
the
is.
good and the bad together.
That's right,
Yeah.
the good and bad, and we go through this process and journey together. And as brother was saying, that soul doesn't have to always be, or the soul mate doesn't have to be, you know, that connection with your heart. You obviously you have that union, how Allah has promised in the Quran, but if you want to have, sometimes your spouse may not be emotionally intelligent. You accept him in all other ways, and he's great, right? But you know, and the other thing is also when we're trying to look for our soulmate, we don't understand that men respond with a solution to something.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a small example because that's their mindset.
Yeah.
Women want something from an emotional perspective. So, you know, she might go to her husband. Oh, you know, I've got a headache. Really, what it means? Can you
want a
massage
hug or
my?
something.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
can
like,
you give me a hug? Right? And the husband will go, take some
Panadol.
Panadol.
That's so funny how
Right?
Yeah.
And it took me, even myself, I used to think, oh, like, how does that happen? That's not what I meant. Right?
Yeah.
The languages that we
I
use,
know I
right?
can take Panadol, but
Now
yeah,
I realise,
yeah.
you know, he's so wise. He told me to take Panadol, right? But it's these
I know what you-
experiences through this journey. So there's a whole misconception of the definition of soulmate. We are so influenced by social
soulmate
media,
and love and
the books we read. You know, even things like Princess Diaries. You get these young girls watching and think, oh, my life's going to be this pretty picture like that. It plants these small seeds in our children's
Especially on
minds.
social media now. We've
Yeah.
got, even like all Muslim couples, you know, the hijabi girls and the bearded men, all showing just how happy they are together. And
Or
so
they're
people-
That's a
praying together.
disease.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
disease.
a
Power
disease,
couple,
yeah.
Muslim power couple. We're so happy.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
is a disease.
And then
Yeah.
sometimes,
It's a
you know, you
disease.
might have just had a fight with your husband or something, or an argument, and then you see that, and then you might think, oh, well, how come we can't be like that or something?
I've actually
Yeah.
heard that in my
Yeah,
office.
like
Yeah.
it's such a, I'm
heard
sure
it.
it's such a common thing. Like,
Or
Like
they
the-
see these images of their husband and wife is praying on Instagram or social media.
Why can't my husband be like that?
Yeah, and pray next to me and put his hand on top of my hand because they see this video. Like,
And it sounds so silly, but it's so real. Like the
So real.
impact
It's so
on
real,
so
yeah.
many,
It
like
is.
Yeah.
good, smart men,
Yes.
brothers in my case, who I speak to, right?
Yeah.
And the impact is pernicious. It's like, I can't believe that you actually think this is how marriage is
this
done,
is
but people
real, that
actually
they're
believe it,
actually-
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they actually compare like to that sister. Honestly, I've the amount of times I've sort of seen married good brothers compare their wives to other women that they
That's another
know
problem.
from the community,
That's
quote
so
unquote.
bad.
And with
Right.
sisters also. That's another
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
comparison.
Sisters do it all the time. I didn't know the brothers
Yes.
do it. That's
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like, so is this like, and this is why I said in the compatibility discussion that this is something I want to slate for later, because is that actually part of something that we should be teaching our youth, like from the get-go, that, you know, marriage is not all these, you know, and I guess I want to ask you guys a little bit as well. is, have we oversimplified, and this is why I said it was a spanner in the works, right? Have we oversimplified the interpretation of the ayat? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, you will find repose in them. It will be like, anytime you go have a conflict with someone, you go there, you find comfort, it's all good, that's your solution to everything. Is that part of the problem? Is that conception of like, have we sort of taken some of these Hollywood, Bollywood notions, chucked them into our deen, and sort of interpreted verses a certain way to make it look like marriage will always be this blissful
There's
state
too
where
much
you
cultural influence.
You know, like, what do you think?
I think that there is definitely a misinterpretation of those verses, those Quranic verses. That one that you mentioned, that the wife needs to be readily available for him at all times, with no questions asked, whether sexually or even emotionally, because Allah said so.
Yep.
So looking at the whole, looking at the deen, looking at anything through a black and white polarized, like a lens like that, is problematic, because the religion and human beings and Sharia and marriage is not simple. It's very, very complex. It's complicated. So yes, definitely the verses have been missing. So you got that verse, you got the Qawwam verse,
The libas verse even, like,
the libas,
she covers me at any point I need.
all that type of stuff, right? So definitely that is a point to. I mean, education needs to be in that area needs to be at the forefront.
And Islamic education, having role models, of really the Prophet Sallallahu entire journey with his wives, studying the seerah, to realize, his struggles, his journey with, his wives. Because we look at, as Sister Reem was saying, or as you were saying, Bollywood films or, social media, unfortunately. And so there's this incorrect sort of mindset when it comes to all of that.
Going back to your question, how you said that, like, so once the spark is gone, is that a problem, or can the marriage still function really practically and well?
Definitely.
Is a mediocre marriage bad? I guess that's where, because a lot of people talk about, it's a mediocre marriage and I'm not happy. But is happiness something that they need to try and strive for in a marriage, or is it just making it work? And
we need to reframe our beliefs and the way we approach things. So what is happiness? What is a happy marriage? Is it being happy all the time? It's impossible. Happiness comes and goes like every other emotion.
So like a difference between happy marriage and a healthy marriage.
That's
what we need to.
That's what we. So when we say happy, we mean healthy. Really. It doesn't mean being happy all the time.
Always be happy.
Correct. So we say, or what I say is to aim for a good enough marriage. Now people go, what the hell? People say, what the hell, good enough?
It's good enough.
Now I don't mean good enough as in breadcrumbs. But good enough as in you were both committed, and all the stuff that we've mentioned already. That's good enough. Don't have unrealistic expectations. Don't have these false beliefs where you expect your spouse to make you happy. It's their job 100% of the time. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we mean by good enough. Good enough is that your needs are being met, your boundaries are being respected, and it's going back and forth. It's reciprocated, right? There's room for there's room for argumentation. There's room for doing your own thing where your spouse can't give you that. You can go get it from a friend, from whatever. And that's what we mean by good enough, right?
I think that's a really good point as well, that you can't expect from your spouse to get everything that makes you happy.
Correct.
Like you had mentioned before, like seek it, like, I don't know, say if you want someone who's really funny, but then your spouse doesn't have that, maybe make a friend who's really funny, or get a friend who's really outdoorsy or whatever. Like,
exactly.
Instead of
having a checklist, we have a checklist, of whatever your values, goals, characteristics, traits, and if there's more good in that, it's almost like a timeline. If there's more good in that, then it's a good enough marriage. Exactly as brother was saying, right? Obviously, if it's got more bad, and it's not a win-win situation, then it's something totally different.
Then it's toxic.
In the interest of time, I'll move things along a little bit faster, inshallah. So let's go to another type of marriage. It's a bit more severe on the spectrum. Let's talk about a toxic relationship, right? What is it? What are the signs that you're in a toxic marriage? What are some of the things which the constant comment you hear in this regard is, I did not know my marriage was toxic until certain things happened, or I learned certain things, or I came across something.
And what is the word toxic?
What is toxic?
What is
everything is toxic.
So I want to say,
that's fine. Go for it.
Not every time someone disagrees with you, this person is toxic. And not every time someone has a different opinion or is arguing with you, it doesn't mean that they're gaslighting you.
Yeah. Or
We
disagrees
need
with
to,
you.
yeah, anyone that disagrees with you doesn't mean that they're toxic or that they're gaslighting you. You've got to remember this.
Yeah.
What's happening now, there's benefit, don't get me wrong, like gaslighting now, everyone knows about these pop psychology terms.
Yep. Yep.
And all these other stuff, which is good. Now people are more aware, right?
Yep.
But it comes with some negative consequences where now people are just saying, well, you're a narcissist. Stop gaslighting me, you're a narcissist, blah, 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 right? And now it's thrown around. It's meant to be like a subclinical term.
Yeah.
Now everyone's using it.
Yeah.
So not everyone who disagrees with you is a narcissist. Not everyone who disagrees with you is toxic, right? Or it doesn't mean that they're gaslighting you. So that's the first thing. Signs of a toxic relationship. I can mention some. So there's the obvious abuse. So if you've been physically abused or taunted or like very aggressive behavior, throwing things around you, yelling in your face like with veins popping out, this is all domestic violence, right? Taking your items, your keys, your phone, breaking things, throwing things at you, even if it's a pillow, that's domestic violence. Because I work with her and I said, well, I didn't hit you, it was just a pillow, right? That's gaslighting. So physical abuse and abuse of any forms, like the apparent ones, the clear ones, that's a sign of a toxic relationship. Emotional abuse is one of the hard ones.
Yeah. To identify.
Because a lot of the times emotionally abusive people, it's hard to say whether they intend it or not.
Yeah.
Whether are they like evil people, are narcissists evil by nature, like by birth? And this is a debate, right? So not all emotional abuse is intended to be harmful.
Yeah.
We do it sometimes when we're in the corner and it's
Reaction,
it's a reaction, it's impulsive, it's not healthy.
You mean by the abuser who's doing it, maybe he doesn't intend to do it, or she?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Now, this will, a lot of people would hurt.
Another spanner in the, yeah.
No, well, I know a lot of people listening, they've been abused.
Okay.
And I'm not, I'm not minimizing that at all.
Yeah.
I will come to that.
Okay.
But sometimes, we human beings will gaslight, will become emotionally abusive, and we're not narcissists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. A trait of narcissism is someone who can't accept responsibility or accountability, right? Someone who's very, very, very sensitive to criticism and therefore very defensive. So if I'm defensive sometimes, am I a narcissist? No.
Yeah.
Right? These are looked at on a continuum. Is it frequent?
Yeah.
Is it intense? The duration of it, is it a one-off thing? You see the difference here?
Yeah.
If it's the duration, it's been happening for a long time. If it's frequent, so it's been happening since 10 years ago and it happens every week and it's quite intense. This is ongoing, this is abuse.
Yeah.
You see? But a split here and there. Yeah. So this is just a disclaimer, right?
Yeah.
So domestic violence is the obvious one. The more subtle ones, and also the other obvious one is cheating. That is that same. But we need to give disclaimers as well. A lot of people are cheating in the name of deen. I'm allowed to have 4 wives. This is that. And there's a lot of married men, by the way, on those dating sites. Actually, there was a study that was done that the majority of people on websites that match people up, the majority of them are actually not single.
Wow.
On Muslim marriage websites.
It's a general, it's a general study.
On general dating websites.
Yeah, but I have
Really
seen
sad, yeah.
in my work, through my experience, that people who are married are on these apps, right? So cheating is another one. There's different forms of cheating. It's all considered betrayal.
Yeah.
When your alliance is not to your spouse, it's to someone else, whether it's through emotions, whether it's through sex, whether it's any other way, this is a betrayal, right? Infidelity. The more subtle ones is, now I'll mention the subtle signs of abuse, right? So the first one is frequent and intense arguments where you're left after the argument to feel lonely and hurt, and it's frequent.
Yeah.
This is a sign of a toxic relationship. So in this situation, the other person is usually criticizing, so there's high levels of criticism. There's high levels of defensiveness. Very sensitive to taking ownership and responsibility for what they did, and there's a lot of gaslighting here, right? What is gaslighting? It's pretty much to someone who denies reality and someone who accuses you makes you feel that you are going crazy because that didn't happen. So someone might say, look, you're cheating. Look, I found you on this app. No, I'm not cheating. Where'd you get that from anyway? Who gave it to you? Who said so? The whole cheating part
switches it
back
to you
them.
manipulates the whole,
You know, so this is a form of that, or just a simple one. This is a cup. No, this is not a cup. You think it's a cup, right? That's gaslighting.
Okay.
So arguments are quite repetitive. They're quite intense. There's a lot of criticism, a lot of defensiveness, a lot of contempt and put down and disrespect and abuse, verbal abuse as well. The second sign of a toxic relationship is frequent, and these are the subtle ones, frequent negative feelings. What does that mean? It's where negative feelings are frequent. You're never happy. You're always sad. You're always lonely, right? And you feel, or you have these feelings that you wish that your partner would leave, or you wish that your partner died. I hear this all the time. I can't wait till he or she dies because that's the only way out.
Yeah.
Or I wish I was dead.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. Right?
So that could be like a toxic marriage, but not necessarily the other person is a toxic person.
No,
right?
I'm saying these are signs of toxic marriage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wishing that you were dead, wishing the other person was dead.
Yeah.
And one way to challenge or to test this out, if you want to know the other person's toxic, is that when they leave, you and the kids, or you feel happy, you feel, you know,
Yeah.
So that person probably was toxic.
I can be myself, we can all be ourselves,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then if they come home, the negativity comes back, that's a sign.
Yeah.
You know, and
You're on
I hear this a
edge.
lot.
You're on edge,
The children go to their rooms, I want to see that parent, that toxic parent, and so forth. So this is a massive sign, right?
Yeah.
So negative feelings. The other sign is negative comparisons and fantasies.
Yeah.
So I can do better. Always with that mentality of I can do better.
Yeah.
And these are comparisons which are happening within you that you don't have to verbalize them. This is a sign that you are in an unhealthy or a toxic marriage, right? Or even if they do verbalize it, so the spouse is saying, "Well, I can do better than you," and you know, I can get anyone right now, and no one will take you, and emotional abuse again.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. This is a sign of a toxic marriage. So fantasies that the person can do better,
Yeah.
right? And even if it's just a thought, this is the pathway to destruction.
Yeah.
Actually, some studies show that these thoughts are the first signs that lead to betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a cascade, they call it. It starts with the negative thoughts.
Sister Anissa, yeah, what would you add?
One more thing, I agree with everything, but with Brother Muhammad, it's also part of toxic relationship is spiritual abuse. I find that like immense. It's so, even if they're not so practicing themselves, but using it against their spouse, whether it's the man, whether it's the woman, spiritual abuse.
Can you explain that to the viewers what that is?
Yeah, I'm going to just give maybe sort of like a moderate example that I've experienced with revert sisters, for example.
Yep.
They've come into the deen and they're still learning, and they're constantly reminded that of things that they, from a cultural perspective, the way their mothers have raised them, they'll go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really loves a woman when she, cooks her husband, and, feeds her, and they have their own take on it, but use spirituality in terms of getting the woman to do what they want, right? Okay. Or, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, praying together, is a sunnah, and yet she's busy with her kids and stressed that I've got to attend to them first, but he's telling me that this particular hadith, because they're not aware of it, and so I'm finding this, and then there's this constant guilt trip, that spiritual abuse. And the other thing also correlates to what Brother Muhammad was saying is that, and these are whether it's smaller signs, is when they're constantly verbally comparing you to somebody else and not appreciating who you are. And it could be something as you've cooked a meal, so I went to so-and-so friend's house and her food was great, right? Or I went to all these little taunting, and I'm talking about on a consistent basis,
Or I've seen a woman in hijab or niqab and hinting,
you should,
so she's constantly being belittled and
all the time. Do you know what I mean? And
she's not good enough.
Yeah, she's not good enough, and it's distressing when you see those sisters going through, already trying to go through all the other hurdles, and they're constantly being compared, or sisters that do it to husbands, And I had a brother come to over a year ago to the centre saying, I'd love my wife to be, in a leadership role, like, you, this and that. And I thought, I can't let him go home with that mindset.
Yeah.
And I said to him, do you realise that your wife has just had a baby? I actually had to give, which I don't like doing, my personal information, saying that when my kids were little, I gave them time. My kids are older now, like they're in uni. And now I have the time, so please respect and honour her for what she is doing for you,
It's
right?
comparing your
Please
chapter
compare-
and her chapter.
That's right.
Chapters.
Not understanding that I've already been through that journey, right? So also all
Good
toxic,
points.
Yeah.
And another trait of a toxic relationship is where the spouse, so when you are happy, the spouse will turn it and put you down. So when you're happy, something activates in them. All right, this is a sign of a toxic marriage, right? So this is a sign of vulnerable narcissism, right? It's vulnerable narcissism. I don't want to get into the whole different things of that, but it's a sign where they don't. So if you're happy, if you're pleased or whatever, their defense mechanism sort of activates.
Where does that come from, though? Like, that's such an
shame.
absurd, like,
They're driven by shame.
Insecurity, right?
And
Like,
shame.
say if she
Who else is
achieves
making you
something-
happy?
Yeah.
I need to be the one
Right,
making you
okay.
happy, right? So, for example, the vulnerable narcissist or the toxic person would, if he or she walks in the room and the spouse is on the phone, they get upset because for
wow.
the danger that they might be happy with something.
it goes back to the symptom criteria, the number in the diagnostic manual for narcissistic personality disorder is an excessive need for admiration,
Yes.
right?
Me, myself, and I.
Me, myself. So something as simple as walking in, spouse is on the phone, and frown.
Okay.
And this goes back to walking on
Because her
eggshells.
attention is elsewhere in that moment.
Correct.
It has to be
yeah.
always.
This
on,
is a sign of a toxic relationship as well.
Wow.
And the last, there's manipulation, and there are other signs.
Yeah.
Aggressive behavior
Yeah.
is a sign as well. So fearing that, I hear it all the time, right? Actually, I've heard cases where the man has divorced his wife under anger, and this is not just one person, but like multiple people, right?
Yeah.
Over hundreds of times. And every time there's a
Is that
fatwa.
allowed? Isn't there a limit? Like,
There's a fatwa for everything. I call them, as Sheikh Abu Adnan calls it, faswa. In Arabic means a fart, right? Sheikh, if you're listening, I love you. Where are we? Yeah, so
yeah.
multiple times. So we know the limit's 3, right?
Yeah.
Multiple times I was angry and I don't, I'm sorry and all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then you look and assess this situation, the person is very, very angry.
Yeah.
Every day, everybody's walking on eggshells, literally. And you don't know what will tick him off, right? This is a sign of a very bad relationship.
Yeah.
And by the way, with these issues, with these fatwas and but the Prophet said if you're angry doesn't count, blah blah blah. All right, let's see how angry you were, Habibi.
Yeah.
Do you remember this? And you find that he remembers things.
Yes.
He could have controlled himself.
Yeah.
The Prophet ﷺ meant
okay.
if you don't remember, it's ighlaq. Ighlaq is your brain is shut.
Yeah.
You don't remember what was going on. The
Yeah.
pen is lifted. Not I'm angry, you're divorced. It's not counted. Everyone divorces when they're angry.
Yeah.
That's not the one that does it. Yeah. So this is the side thing, right? So this is another sign of
Toxicity,
of a toxicity, and the last one is negative thoughts as well. Just this constant negative thoughts about your spouse, about the relationship, right? Unhappiness.
Yeah. Because it's an important phrase, and we shouldn't leave without just defining it succinctly. What is a narcissist? What are the requisite elements of the definition per the
I'm sure everyone Googled
diagnostic?
it.
Well, I think it's one of those terms that gets thrown around so often. People don't actually know the technical definition.
So, narcissism, well, what we talk about is so it's narcissistic personality disorder. It's a personality disorder.
Yeah.
It's something that's diagnosable by a professional, by a clinician who is trained in this area. So it is a real mental disorder, right? It's usually comorbid with other disorders as well. Sometimes it's also confused to other disorders as well, like obsessive compulsive personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. Anyway, so it's a disorder. So obviously we shouldn't be labeling people with these things, but we can be, so traits can be narcissistic,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, so sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, no, so I was
What
like,
is
what is the
the
definition of
definition?
it? Like, what are the key things that
So,
have
look, I believe that there's many in our community. There's many undiagnosed narcissists. I actually believe that.
Yeah.
Shoot me for it. I don't care.
Yeah, there are.
I know the doctor sees the world of sick,
Yes.
and the counsellor sees the world of, but I see a lot of undiagnosed. I believe that there's a lot of, and I'm not talking about like one trait. I'm quite educated, like, you know, through research, whatever, I won't just call someone a narcissist because of one thing. I'm talking about frequency, intensity, and the traits are there in your face. And in the session, they're sticking out like,
And they wouldn't
in
go
front of
and
you. The
get
traits are there.
diagnosed because they
Of
wouldn't
course.
see anything
So
wrong with them. Yeah.
we say that narcissism is rare according to stats,
Yeah.
but that's
Phenomenon
because
is not
they're
that.
not in therapy.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Right? And they don't believe that they're a narcissist.
Yeah.
They believe, so even now, them listening to me, oh, that's someone else. It's not me.
Yeah.
They genuinely believe this,
Yeah.
right? They have this, it's like a protective mechanism. Narcissism is a protective mechanism. If you ask them what is narcissism,
Yeah.
they've been traumatized. They usually don't know it, so they might say, oh, that's not me, I was traumatized, I had a good life.
Yeah.
And then you do a bit of an interview, the guy was whipped, the guy was abandoned, the guy was, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They're like, oh, okay. So anyway, the point is that at the stem of it is trauma. It could be also genetic and like hereditary.
Yeah.
There is
Yes.
that. So we don't know exactly where it comes from, but it's a mixture of things. But the point is that it becomes a protective mechanism.
Yeah.
That there's shame and a broken sense of self underneath all of that, that they don't even know, right? Most of the time. But the narcissism is protecting it.
Yes.
So that's where the arrogance comes in.
Yeah.
That's where the grandiosity comes in.
Yeah.
That's where the excessive
Control.
need for
And
the
underneath that is
control.
a broken person.
Underneath it is a
Yeah.
broken person.
Yeah.
Can they be fixed? Can they be cured? Can they
I was
be
going to ask,
through
is there a
therapy?
treatment?
Is there
So
treatment?
there is treatment for narcissism. So experts say that it's rare, obviously. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And so you've got the grandiosity, so the grandiose narcissist and the vulnerable narcissist. So they're like on a, you can say on a continuum or on a spectrum. You've got the grandiose on this side and the vulnerable on that side, right? The vulnerable one go through stages. So the vulnerable is more like humble, shy, introverted, but they're not agreeable, they're not open. They're very, they're high on neuroticism, so they get angry straight away. But they go through some stages where they do realize that their life is crumbling.
Yeah.
The vulnerable narcissist. That's a good time to get them. And the therapist who's trained will teach them the difference between cognitive empathy and
Yeah.
emotional empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
Because they have cognitive empathy. The
Yeah.
research shows that the narcissist and the non-narcissist both have cognitive empathy at the same levels. So the narcissist can see that you're upset, but they can't act
Emotionally.
Yes. Yeah.
because of the defense mechanism. If I act, then it means I'm shameful, I'm weak, I'm whatever. So then I avoid. So I see many narcissists, the spouse is crying, for example, and they look away. They don't want to see that. It's a defense. I look at these things, right? And I tell him, turn to your wife. And that's where it all starts. It's like, shit, she's crying. Sorry.
5-second beep.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
There can be, there is treatment.
Yeah.
It's rare, a lot of hard work, and it's the motions that they do. So they won't be cured. There'll still be narcissism there, but they know how to control it. Does that make sense?
Sister Nisa, in your experience with the community,
Yes.
you've probably seen sisters who are on the receiving end of narcissistic behavior.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? What advice do you give?
Look, you know, I hate advising people to break up their marriages. But unfortunately, because there's so many of the men out there who, and obviously there's women who are narcissists also, but I'm referring to
There's men and
sisters,
women
yeah.
narcissists.
Yeah, both,
Disclaimer.
right? But I'm referring to the women that I deal with, that with the men, there's so many of them that don't want to or won't seek help because there's a stigma, whether it's got to do with mental health issues, whatever it may be, with their trauma, trying to deal with their trauma, the way that they were raised. And
Women are more likely to see therapy.
Yes, that's
but not
right.
men,
Not men, right? Because it's challenging their masculinity at the end of the day. And when you're in that situation and they're not willing to make the change, unfortunately, my advice is to leave that situation. Because it's healthy for you, it's healthy for your children. In the long run, the longer you stay in this relationship, it's going to have detrimental effect on you. You're going to be miserable, you're going to be depressed, you're going to have anxiety, and it's going to have major consequences for your children. It's actually better that you separate and you're a single mum, or inshallah you find somebody else, and you have a healthier upbringing, for yourself and your children, and a healthier mental state and a mindset. Because it cripples you, it does. It really and
So
truly
you
cripples
can't
you.
make a marriage work with a narcissist?
No,
Is that
I
what
don't
you're
believe
saying?
they can change.
Okay, what
Very
do you
rarely,
think? Do you
very
think
rarely.
it's still
I already
gonna
answered
work?
that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It's
But it's
very
rare.
rarely, very rare.
Okay.
I just don't believe from
It's
my
hard
26
work.
years of
Yeah.
experience, it's extremely hard
It's-
work,
So you'd have
and
to
I
be a
haven't
woman
seen them
who
change.
just really doesn't care about yourself at all. It just Yeah,
There's a lot of
given everything.
sacrifices that need to be made.
Yes.
I have worked with some who have actually been diagnosed by psychiatrists,
Okay,
and I've
yeah.
worked with them,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I've got them to a better place. They're still narcissists,
Yeah.
and they know it,
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're spout. But we get them to a better place where the wife gets some of their needs met. But it's very rare.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put hope in everyone that's listening,
Yeah.
because another problem is the victim of the narcissistic person would always say, "Oh, well, Muhammad Rima said there's hope."
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's a tough one.
like,
You know,
yeah.
seek therapy yourself. Speak to a professional, a psychologist who specializes in this stuff.
Yeah.
And then make decisions accordingly. You know.
Well, on that sober note, let's get to the most final part.
I was going to ask just one more really quick question.
Okay, go for it,
Really,
go.
really quick.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Say the person's not a narc, right? But it still feels in the toxic marriage that you went through all the different things that make a marriage toxic. Do those marriages all need to end? Or is there some hope that you can actually still have a functioning, healthy marriage? Or, I mean, can you fix that marriage? Okay, so it's not healthy if it's toxic. But can you fix that marriage even if... So neither partners are toxic, but
Yeah.
the marriage itself together is toxic.
Okay, so neither partner are toxic.
Yeah,
but
so you
it's-
know how you mentioned in
Yeah.
the list that it doesn't necessarily mean, like say there's incompatibility and
Okay,
you're
so you're
very
going back to the
unhappy.
mediocre one? Is that what you're
kind
saying,
of
Megan?
mediocre. You're just very unhappy and you're not like happy in the relationship.
Let me answer with two. So
Yeah.
the first part would be: can a mediocre marriage where the love has died down, sex has died down, attraction has died down, but there's no abuse, there's no
no abuse,
narcissism.
yeah, yeah.
Can that be worked on differently?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other part of the question: can a toxic relationship? So we're not saying narcissistic yet, but
Yeah.
a toxic relationship where there is abuse and or other stuff, can that be saved? The answer is also yes, but with
Yes.
conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the toxic person needs to be less toxic.
Yeah.
It can go from toxic. I mean, what is toxic, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between toxic and bad?
Yeah.
It's quite similar, really, right? So the toxic behavior needs to be identified, needs to be unlearned, needs to be
Fixed.
not just
Yeah.
fixed, but acknowledge that I have this behavior
That's right.
that's toxic.
Acknowledgement is the first step.
Yeah. I mean, in my age, 38, 39, 40, like my friends around that age, they've, we acknowledge that, man, when I was a 20-year-old, I had traits of narcissism.
Yeah.
And now with the, the knowledge and whatever, people are like, I'm trying to undo that toxic trait. So there is hope, right? But it needs to be acknowledged that I have this trait and I need to let it go. It's not your fault. It's not your fault I hit you. It's not your fault I cheated. It's not your fault I am a miserable person. I chose to do that. I own it, and I'm not going to do it again. There's other options I can do,
Yeah.
right? So each trait, one by one, husband and wife, they both got toxic traits. They both got to do this process.
Yeah.
For the narcissist, can it be? I think I already answered that, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
that's pretty much the answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's
So,
move on.
so the final section, inshallah. Divorce. Bismillah. How do you know when it's time to stop practicing patience and it's best to step out of the marriage? So we're sort of segued into this question, right? And where do you draw the line? Start with you, Sister Anissa, first.
Look,
Not
obviously-
necessarily for narcissists or toxic.
No, just generally
Right,
in
yeah,
a general
yeah.
marriage situation. When you've gone through the processes of whatever your challenges are or were, you've both acknowledged it, you've gone through the process to mediate or have mediation in place or trying to rectify the situation, and that person, whether it's the husband or wife, is not willing to make whatever that change is. So say for example, he or she has got major anger management issues, and it's impacting your level of anxiety in the home, and you're tense, oh my God, he's coming home, and he's not willing to work on it at all. Because I've seen these situations where they're not willing to work on it, they're not willing to change, unfortunately, because of the consequences it's going to have on your well-being and on the children. You really don't have a choice except to step away. But what I do say is to initially step away temporarily, not to go through the whole process of the 3 divorces. Because sometimes it's that separation period that really makes you realize that, okay, no, I'm losing too much. There's too much at stake, right? Because sometimes we jump the deep end and go bang, talaq 3 times, and that's it. And there's no reconciliation then afterwards, right? So that's why there's hikmah also in the process of divorce, right? So to use that hikmah, you go, okay, yeah, it's 1 divorce, you go through your iddah. And I've seen spouses where they've rectified things and they've changed, or they've, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put them through some sort of a test, and and it's a wake up call for them, right? And they reconcile. So to allow time also in that process when you have separated, and don't jump to bang 3 talaqs because that's detrimental also. You know, you go through these changes after 2 or 3 years where one spouse thinks, you know, he's made the change, but it's too late to get back with that particular person, you know, and then the effects that it has just on children coming from broken families is it's just immense. And you see it, I see it when I'm working with children. You can see the emotional struggle that they're going through, trying to comprehend why did my mum and dad, you know, who in the child's eye is the most perfect thing, why and how did they separate? You know, what caused it? And then they start to develop this resentment they do. You know, so
they blame themselves too. They blame themselves.
They blame themselves, and I know, you know, a child, his parents have been divorced, and he blames himself. He said, "Oh, it was because of me that you know,
I got in the way.
I got in the way. You guys got divorced." Or he actually says that when I get married, in his mind, he believes that his marriage is not going to work. My children are going to leave me, and my spouse is going to divorce me because that's how he perceives the world now.
Yeah, because his most loved ones left him, so therefore
that's right.
There's no hope after that. You know.
We had a very interesting question come in. It's a fiqh question, and I think it's a simple answer. A sister asks, I have a question. A husband and wife have divorced Islamically. There are no court orders for their child, and it was a peaceful divorce. There is constant communication and transparency between the two. Now they are considering uniting again. Do they need to do the nikah from scratch? I.e., does the woman need a wali? Do they need to be 2 witnesses, etc.?
Did you finish your iddah?
It's not clear.
So if you finished your iddah, then you need to do the nikah from scratch with all the conditions and the prerequisites.
But if you haven't, then
if you haven't completed your iddah and you've it wasn't 3 talaqs, then you can go back without anything. The man just has to say, I take you back with that intention.
Beautiful. What's your answer to that question?
Which question was it?
The question I asked Sister Anissa, which is, when do you know it's time to stop practicing patience?
When the fat lady sings. No, that's a bad comment.
I think it's getting late.
You don't know until it's over, right?
Yeah.
How do you know when it's? I mean, the sister answered them correct. I mean, I can't really add more to that. That's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
I would add what I already said. When you see that there's frequent, intense traits.
Yeah, you sort of answered it before as well.
Yeah. So if that's there, then that's a sign. But not everyone leaves. Right? Is that one of the questions?
No. We'll come to that. Let me. So that's on the toxic and narcissistic sort of marriage. What about the other case that we were talking about? The other
unhappy.
The unhappy.
But they don't leave.
Mediocre,
the mediocre. The years of like no spice, no.
What I usually
chemistry.
see, they stick it out for the kids.
Yep.
They go through the motions, and there's no toxicity. There's none of that. But they go through the motions. There's moments of good and love and whatever. It's not like you know.
It's not doom and gloom always.
Yeah, but what I see is that the man, and this is just based off my experience, that the man can live with that that autopilot mode, because that's our nature. Sort of like we just go hunt and come back with the food and eat it, you know, and have intimacy and roll over, right? That's what the man is sort of. But he can live like that forever. He doesn't. Most of the time through my questionnaires, when I do the questionnaires, they're both in 2 different worlds. So the wife, it's all red. So red means bad or like needs improvement. Are you unhappy? So wife's unhappy. Husband thinks everything's okay. So the wife is red. Is the wife is red results, and the husband is green results. He doesn't. He's oblivious. He's thinking life is cool. He's not aware that his wife's unhappy, or he maybe is, but he's not doing anything about it. He can live with that. But the wife usually would slug it out. Kids get married, and she's gone. I've seen it.
Interesting. At quite an old age, Annie.
Yeah. They just want to. I mean, they don't want to get married again, but they just want to like just be them and just sort of. They lost love for this person. So my advice, or you know, what I'm saying is that the men can live that mediocre life and not complain. Women, they usually slug it out till the children grow up, but they're not happy with it.
Can I? Sorry. Can I add to that? A fantastic point that brother has mentioned, that for the women out there, what we need to understand that in our maternal state, we're giving so much to our children. We are, and the men are obviously busy if both are working. That we obviously start to through that process. It's for the sake of the children. We're in that and we grow apart. So it's really, really important that frequently, whether it's once a month, you go out on a date with your husband, to always keep that connection. But the other thing women need to remember, that while we're in that process of, producing children, having children and raising them, our womb is our creativity, right? And when we reach that stage in life where we can't have children anymore or they've grown up, we need to understand that the creativity that Allah has given us has stopped. So what happens is when our body is going through that change, it's the flight or it's the fight mode, right? And this is where women go, oh, okay, children have grown up, I don't really feel anything with my husband, I'm going to leave, right? And my advice to women is in that stage of your life, and we all reach menopause at different stages in our life, but when that creativity, which is the raham from Allah, stops producing, you need to tap into something for yourself. So when I say flight or fight mode, you'll find that women at that time who go, oh yeah, no, I've raised my kids and I've done my bit, I'm going to leave my husband. Those women generally statistically develop high rates of diseases like heart disease, arthritis, cancer, diabetes, right? Because they're not doing something for themselves anymore. And my advice is to go into not the flight mode, in the fight mode, and go, you know what, it doesn't have to be work. It can be something that, volunteer with a charity organization, start going to a halakha.
Do something different.
Doing something different, go to the gym or go meet up with your friends while your husband's at work. I'm pretty sure we've got 2 to 5 friends, having a coffee or doing a cooking session or, something where you can emotionally connect with them, because that will allow that, when I say that, ignition again, that I can connect with because I feel like they don't have a purpose in life anymore. That's what happens. I've raised my kids, I don't have a purpose in life anymore.
Good point.
Like they were only with that spouse for the purpose of the kids.
That's
and
right.
When it's done,
Yeah, it makes sense because I was raising the kids. That gave me the purpose, but there was no connection with the spouse.
Because the male purpose, as Brother Muhammad said, was to provide, and he's still doing it. So he doesn't see a difference. But for her anatomy has changed. Biologically what she was doing has changed. So she needs to shift that paradigm and change her, her process in life and what she's doing, so she feels like she's still valuable, right? In terms of creativity.
So do you mean that she can still be in that marriage while doing that? Like,
of course.
Yeah.
Of
so
course.
don't end the marriage just because you feel like you're not connecting.
That my kids have grown and I'm not connecting with them anymore because I don't have anything to do because they're married and moved on.
It goes back to how you said before, don't find all your happiness in the spouse.
Yes.
Like, you need to find your own happiness outside of that relationship as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and try to break the cycle of, like, if your relationship is mediocre, if it's in autopilot mode. I mean, as Sister Nessa was saying, like, go on dates. It's not just the dates as well. It's like, look at your day-to-day life as it's quite chaotic. It's just those little moments of checking in with each other.
Yeah.
The date is the weekly one, you can say, or the monthly one.
Yeah.
But it needs to be also on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye to your spouse.
Yeah.
How you reunite at the end of the day. It's just those little moments, like meeting him at the door when he comes from work and just giving him a kiss.
Yeah.
It's that moment.
Yeah.
How you go to bed, like your bedtime routine.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, right?
Small gestures. Like a beautiful hadith I was reading the other day where Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when Aisha radiallahu anha would eat, when the bones, he would just in front of her, he would, lick or taste the bones. That makes, that connection and that happiness.
Correct.
It's those little things that if we do, it keeps that going, inshallah.
Final couple of notes, inshallah. What are the main hesitations that cause people to not end a toxic marriage? And we talked about what are the signs and so forth. In your experience, why do people stay?
Societal expectations.
Yeah.
Well, what are people going to say?
The label on divorce.
Yeah, divorce.
Culture taboos.
Culture
as well.
taboos, definitely.
I don't want to have another divorce under my belt. I hear that a lot by brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
It's just that it's like another. It's a label, right? You are divorced.
And we're raised to think, it's happily ever after. How can I end something? What's going to happen?
And be happy after that.
Yeah, and how can I be happy after that also? So.
And also children, money,
Yes.
living circumstances.
Yeah.
Some people have it well. I've seen many unsatisfied spouses who stay because if they leave, it means that they need to live in housing commission, and they're living in a mansion. And they need to downgrade their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. It doesn't mean that they're greedy. It just makes sense. It's one of the factors.
Yeah.
It means that the abuse or the toxicity or the reason to leave hasn't increased high enough.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. Last note, second marriages. Pandora's box in itself.
Do we need to go into that now?
But I want some quick thoughts just before, because this was a question that was sent in, and we just want to make sure we address it for the sake of the people.
Really?
Very, very quickly. How common are they in the community? Second, third marriages and so forth. How common are they? Can they work in the modern day?
Are we talking about secret or just second?
And I'll talk about secret. What about secret second marriages, right? And can they work? Have you seen them work? And what do they do to families?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Ya Allah.
Mohammed.
So put secret marriages on the side. Let's talk about
Second
marriages or
Yeah.
plural or polygamy. Is it common? I don't think it's I don't think it's common, because the word common means like, you know, in your family you know a few people that do it, right? Hasn't reached that stage, I believe anyway. Is it happening? Yes. But is it to like high rates? I don't think it's high rates. Is there benefits? Definitely. This is from Allah's religion. There's definitely wisdom within it.
Is it working in our society?
Okay. So is it working? Right. So let's go back a little bit. We are Muslims who are detached or not living in a collective society anymore, in a Sharia society, and we're generations beneath that, and we're in the individualistic society, Kafir society. Their laws and our laws don't align. So we, whether we like it or not, and people don't like me saying this, we Muslims who are born here and second, third generation, whatever you want to call it, we have, whether we like it or not, subconsciously, consciously, unconsciously, we are westernized. We are. I mean, look at, you know, we're westernized. And we like it. Doesn't mean we're doing haram. I'm not saying that. But our thinking, our behaviors, the way we're comfortable, what we're comfortable with. I've seen many brothers on migrating, this, that. They don't last 6 months because it's a massive clash.
Yeah.
You're a westernized person. Go into a village that is just completely different. So anyway, the point is that trying to shove and fit a Islamic social rule, part of the fabric of the social rule, into an individualistic one, won't work most of the time.
Yeah.
Like we're shoving it in, right?
Yeah.
So we get this part from Islam and we're shoving it in. Can it happen? Yes, it can. Should we stop it? No, I'm not saying that. But shoving it is going to come with hardships, with problems, and issues.
In your case, have you usually seen it happen where once it does happen, the first marriage ends in a divorce, or it continues?
Most of the times that what I've seen is the first wife would say, "That's your haq. That's whatever you can do that."
That's if the husband asks her.
That's if he lets her know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
See how I said lets her know, not ask. little subs there, right?
It's still on the thing, people.
Yeah. So if she knows about it, most times from what I see is that she asks for divorce.
She asks for divorce? Yeah.
She asks for a divorce.
Okay.
And it is within her right to you know, if she doesn't want to live with that arrangement, she can do that. Brothers, if your wife wants to do that, there's other ways of trying to keep her. Don't guilt trip her by saying what she's doing is haram and she's a munafiq off or disobeying Allah's laws. She's not disobeying Allah's laws. This is an issue of preference.
Yes.
It's an issue of personal, like what she can live with and what she can't live with according to her own means.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean she's disagreeing or making takfir on the issue of polygamy. It's that she believes that it's from Allah and so forth. It's not wajib, it's not fard. This I can't live with. It's not part of the arrangement I have with you, you know, in this marriage contract, and therefore I want to leave.
Yeah.
Don't gaslight her and spiritually abuse her. With that. There's other ways to keep her without doing that, right? Yeah. So most cases I see that this is what happens, right? Sometimes I see the wife be patient. So I usually advise her not to, like I'm saying again, there's no abuse, there's none of that stuff, right? I usually advise her to be patient, just give it 6 months, give it a year before, obviously with boundaries, with someone qualified to sort of mediate and so forth, before you make that decision. I don't know if that's part of the question, right?
No, it's great. It's great part of the answer.
Don't just jump the gun and go get your khula, don't do that. You know, be patient, especially when there's kids in the middle, there's life in the middle. Just don't do that, right? Just be patient. It's your right to do whatever you want. I'm just giving you this advice to don't think don't make decisions when your mind and your emotions are very, very high.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sister Anissa.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and back on that note, with the brothers that, you know, with the women are, you know, obviously agreeing to it. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to Ali radiallahu anhu, ya Ali, do not marry during the life of Fatima radiallahu anhu. This is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's daughter. So it's not in every woman's capacity to be able to accept it. Okay, and it's nothing wrong with not accept. And he didn't marry during the life of Fatima radiallahu anha.
He married several times after, I think.
As he married several times, but not during her lifetime, right? So he honored that and he respected that. So I asked the brothers to honor and respect that. Don't allow your current marriage or your family to break down and destroy the life of the children. That's number one. Number two is unfortunately, the few that are doing it, and it is starting to grow, they're not, first of all, fulfilling the rights of both sides equally. It's not something that, and it's not easy, let alone with one managing two. And it's more like a halal, dating, right? It is. It's a halal dating thing, and they get someone younger. She's a virgin.
And it's like this part-time wife thing, and even sometimes the second wife is okay with that, saying, "I don't want a full-time husband because I don't want all the
it might work for some
things,
Yeah,
right? And I've seen situations where it has worked, and I know 3 people where the brothers have married, and they keep everything absolutely equal, and both women are exceptionally happy. And there's only 3 that I know, right? Yeah. But the rest of them, their marriages end up falling apart because they've moved on. They're not fulfilling the right of the first. They're not fulfilling the right of the second.
Preferential treatment.
It's halal dating, and it's not. And then what happens to the poor widows and the divorced women? Nobody wants to marry them because they keep marrying the virgins, right?
On a connected note, secret second marriages, right? Is that like an absolute?
Just let me add something very, very important though before we get there. It links to it.
Yeah.
So the impact on children second marriages have in an individualistic society. You got to remember this point.
Yeah.
Our children are not living under a Khalifa 1400 years ago where the community raises you, there's support, there's a qadi, there's all these things, you get your rights, right? We're getting this westernized boy who doesn't know Islam, he barely knows Arabic, his name's Ahmed or Muhammad, that's it, right? He doesn't understand all this stuff. I'm speaking real. This is called real talk, so I'm speaking real. He sees as daddy abandoned me.
Yes.
This is what I do. I deal with the youth. And I hear these frequently. So if you are going to make this choice, you need to be very careful how you, as long as your wife you need to be speaking with, you need to be speaking with your children. Make sure that you do it in a way that you decrease that damage. There is going to be damage, abandonment, issues, abandonment trauma, abandonment disorder, all that can happen. And that can lead to drug and alcohol abuse in that kid to numb the pain. Bad grades in school. Low self-esteem, depression, anger. This is what's going to happen from your choices. Think wisely.
We won't even go to the secret stuff because I think it's pretty obvious just by discussing the one where
I have never seen a secret marriage work.
Okay.
That's your answer, people.
There we go. That's
It ends in tears. It ends in horror.
Yes.
It ends in pain. No one involved is happy in that, right? Everyone involved is hurt.
You had mentioned in the
Start
very
off with the
beginning
wrong intention to begin with. It's
sister.
done secretly. It started off with the wrong intention.
Yeah, you
Now-
talked about the importance of trust in a relationship.
Correct.
So if
Now-
there's a secret, obviously.
Right now, there are some people listening to this who are in secret marriages who won't like that.
Secret multiple marriages?
Yeah.
Like it's a second marriage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Secret
Multiple
multiple
second
marriages.
Yeah.
And they might be wives, right? And they might be saying, "Are you saying that my marriage is going to end?" I'm telling you, yes.
Yeah.
I'm that firm on it,
Yeah. It is.
right?
Yeah.
Not the non-secret one. I'm talking about the secretive ones.
Secret. Yeah.
It's secret for a reason. It's secret for conniving reasons. It's secret for
Not being able to deal with the
manipulative
difficult
reasons.
issues.
Yeah.
It's secret because this person doesn't have the skills to deal with issues.
Yeah. And if he secretly married you, he will secretly marry a third person. So be vigilant.
Now, someone might come up to me and say, "But brother, I might travel overseas 6 months at a time, and this, that, and blah blah blah." Like, all right, it's probably 1.0001 time of an exception where keeping it secret may be best, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the brothers who right now are in car parks. Secret marriages. We're talking about zina. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right now they might jump through windows to see their secret second wife. They tell their wives that they're out fishing. They tell their wives that they're out doing certain things. The wife becomes suspicious. She starts to see his bills, that he's not where he is. He's suspicious. It's just
Disaster waiting to happen.
Basically, yeah.
don't do it, man.
Yeah.
Just tell your first wife. tell her what's going on. Remember what I said about the impact on your on not just your wife, but also your children and your progeny, your offspring after that. You know what I mean? If your marriage is not good, seek help. You can fix your sex life. I'm telling you, I have done it to many brothers. So those who have are watching me, they're probably making dua for me. I've helped many brothers in that area and sisters fix their marriages. Their sex life becomes better. Their friendship is better. Everything's cool.
Yeah.
And they tell me, thank you. You know, I was going to go get a second wife. Thank you very much. You know what I mean? I was going to divorce. Thank you very much. There's help. If you try all of that and it doesn't work, then decide what you're going to do.
Yeah. Sure.
On that note, it is late. Jazakumullah khair. Amazing discussion. Amazing discussion. So it'll help a lot of people, I'm sure. And I wanted to thank you both for the time that you've given and invested, and Sister Reem for the time that you've given in helping bring out the fruits of this discussion.
Barakallahu feek for having us
Thank you
here.
so
It
much
really
for having
is
us.
such an important discussion.
How was the comments after all that?
Oh, it was good. It was good.
It's still rolling. It's still going. So
So
thank you to all the viewers as well.
absolutely,
for
thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for
engaging and
listening.
being
Yeah,
interactive.
absolutely. No, it's been an amazing discussion, and really
It was an
feel
intense topic,
people will
yeah.
take some good stuff from here, and it'll really help some people.
Inshallah. Our aim is not to ruin marriages and relationships. Our aim is to help raise awareness.
Yeah.
If I said something that someone misunderstood, please clarify with me because it's easy to take a snippet from
Yeah,
tonight
yeah.
and tarnish my name.
And forgive us.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
inshallah.
We're all sort of in rapid fire discussion here.
Yeah.
So, look, everyone here is accessible. You can access us through the NZF page or through Brother Muhammad Reema's counselling and consultation page. Sister Anisa is very well known, and myself and Reem get along as well. So around the internet. So, let us know if there's any further questions or follow-ups. You can contact us through our individual channels or through the NZF page. I want to give a huge shout out to NZF that continues to provide this amazing platform for these important discussions in the community to happen. If you have not already, please check out NZF's work, nzf.org.au. And if you haven't set up daily donations for this Ramadan, set it up with NZF. If you are interested in the long-term well-being of the Muslim community in Australia and creating a society, whether it's from the marriage angle or our children and their well-being or programs that may be zakat eligible and really are needed, then consider NZF for your zakat this Ramadan. It will be something that helps transform our community in the long run and is a very important part of building a long-term self-sustaining community, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. Thank you so much again to my panelists and our co-host, Sister Reem. Jazakumullah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Salama.
Salam.